You're unmuted, but I'm gonna try to fix these cameras. I don't know what.
We had problems with them Friday too.
Okay.
The voice was working, but the cameras weren't.
Okay. Let me see what I can figure out.
We're gonna go ahead and start though, because they can hear you online.
Correct. Yep.
All right, good morning. We'll call this meeting to order of the Lindsay County Commissioners of May 26, 2026. It's 9 a.m. and could I get roll call, please?
Janat,
Here.
Markey,
Here.
Matthews,
Here.
Nye,
Here.
Roloff,
Here.
Sauer,
Present.
Trigg,
Here.
everybody's present.
You'd stand for the invocation, and Gary, if you would, please.
Gracious God, as we come before you today to discuss important matters, that we ask for your guidance and wisdom. Help us to focus on our community and be thankful for all our blessings. In your name I pray.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You had the agenda in advance of the meeting. Is there any additions, corrections anybody'd like to make?
Motion to approve as presented.
Thank you, Bob.
Second.
Thank you, Len. Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The same for the minutes. You had those in advance, the May 12th minutes.
I did get a correction from Chair Janat.
I had two, so maybe it's one, and I should have emailed you. I apologize. There's a word change. Was that it on page 3 in the packet? It's under Kenzie Long's statement. It should be media presence, ENCE, instead of ENTS.
Page 3.
This one. It might be let me look at the page as it's printed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's page 1 is printed, and then on the stellar. Hold on. Word, that's a spelling correction. It's the word chair. It's CHARI.
Oh, yep, I
It's
see.
spelled, is that the one? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Those are the only two I had. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Uh-huh.
Any other comments or questions? Believe we still need a motion?
Motion to approve as amended,
Thank you, Bob.
corrected.
Go ahead, second.
I'll second. Gary, thank you. There's no other comments or questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll enter into our first public comment at 9:03. Would anybody from the public like to speak? Come on up, please, in order, if you would. State your name, where you live.
Good morning. My name is Carol McKee and I am a Lake Township resident,
Could you spell your last name for me?
MC capital KEE.
Thank you.
I'm a veterinarian and a former member of the advisory committee to the Benzie County Animal Control. I've spent my entire professional career in animal rescue and welfare. And I sent a letter to all of you before the April 14th meeting. Since the decision to euthanize a puppy named Nala and its subsequent backlash on social media, I have noticed that the county administrator, Katie Zeitz, and this board have focused on defending the current shelter system. Respectfully, I am asking all of you to remain open to operational changes at the shelter. I urge you to listen with an open mind to those with firsthand day-to-day experience. When a system is healthy, we see stability. Yet at BCAC, several employees and volunteers have left, including a highly regarded animal control officer. Further, our shelter houses significantly fewer animals than surrounding communities. Why is this? The recent situations involving Nala and Bunny raise serious professional concerns. And I'm sure you all know about Bunny also. Don't have to explain who Bunny is, the dog on Easter that was the stray that was on Facebook. This story was published on Facebook on the shelter Facebook page within a week of the Nala public backlash. Do the actions taken reflect standard operating procedure? How often are animals transported for emergency weekend care? My perception is that this was a PR effort since it was posted to Facebook. According to the post, Bunny's owners were found and it all ended happily. However, what I saw in the pictures and the veterinary record was that Bunny was extremely emaciated and suffered from a skin condition that had been present for some time. This raises the question of neglect. Was this investigated, and is there ongoing verification of her care? Regarding Nala, what was the purpose of the county administrator's meeting with an animal behaviorist after the dog was euthanized? To my knowledge, the administrator had no direct interaction with Nala. As a veterinarian, I am deeply surprised that professional assessment would be based entirely on secondhand, potentially biased accounts rather than direct, objective evaluation. Furthermore, community trust is being eroded by limits on volunteer participation, the introduction of non-disclosure policies, and questionable hiring practices. Volunteers are the backbone of any shelter. They should be treated as partners, not liabilities. We must ensure our hiring practices are fair, transparent, and designed to secure the most qualified candidates. There are excellent resources available to animal shelters today. I strongly encourage the county to hire an independent outside expert to evaluate our shelter's operations and provide recommendations for improving animal care, management, and community trust. Meaningful progress begins with accountability. The concerns raised by residents, employees, and volunteers should not be dismissed simply because they challenge the current process. I hope you approach this as an opportunity to strengthen the shelter, improve transparency, and better serve Benzie County. And most of all, the employees and volunteers at the shelter must be animal advocates and work together to be the voice of the animals. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Tinoco. I'm a Manistee County resident and the president of Community Cats of Benzie County.
Michelle, could you spell your last name, please?
Tinoco.
Thank you.
I stopped by the shelter last Saturday after the last commissioners meeting to let the staff know our schedule was back to 2 or more days a week since the return of Dr. Mary Rupley. I also let them know that if they had any cats or kittens that needed vaccines, spay, neuter services, or other care, that we would make space for them. A week later, I was informed that a volunteer had stopped by to spend time with a nursing mother cat and her kittens for socialization. They were told the kittens hadn't been vaccinated and they could no longer visit the kittens. One had already passed away. Benzie County has something fairly unique, an entire organization dedicated to cats and kittens, along with an amazing group of fosters who each bring special skills and experience in caring for the cats and young kittens. We have extended our help many times and have taken kittens on occasion when they are not quite yet ready for the shelter life. I am hopeful that you are considering reinstating the advisory board as our treasurer mentioned a few meetings ago. It is clear that the shelter staff needs additional guidance and support in properly caring for the animals. A lack of training in animal care is now costing lives. While every shelter and rescue experience returned animals, the rate at which animals are being returned to Benzie County Animal Shelter is alarming. There appears to be a significant lack of training and knowledge regarding animal behavior and how to match animals with the appropriate homes that fit their individual needs. Shelter staff needs additional training on proper placement practices and animal care. The lack of oversight and guidance negatively impacting the welfare of these animals. At the very least, it's clear that an advisory board is needed before more lives are lost. There are qualified individuals ready to serve as an advisory board immediately. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
My name is Kenzie Long. I live in Frankfurt and I'm the Vice President of Community Cats of Benzie County. I'm speaking again about concerns regarding the animal shelter and animal control. Animal shelters operate with established protocols and standards for medical care, daily monitoring, sanitation, enrichment, behavioral needs, and overall animal welfare. These things matter because they directly affect health, behavior, outcomes of the animals in their care. But protocols on paper do not mean much if they are not being properly implemented and followed consistently. If those standards are in place, why do concerns keep coming up? Concerns that are being raised not just by community members, but also people experienced in animal welfare. Freedom of Information Act requests have been made, and I was disappointed by what those records contained. Animal care is not just feeding them and cleaning cages. It is paying attention. It is meeting their medical and behavioral needs. It is socialization and enrichment, and it is making sure animals are being placed in the right homes, not just adopted out to the first person who shows interest when there are red flags and concerns in the application. These animals rely entirely on the people caring for them. They don't get to speak up for themselves. They need staff that are paying attention, genuinely care, and who have experience with animals and understand their needs. Concerns have also been raised about animals not receiving opportunities for proper socialization, enrichment, and interaction. I was made aware of a recent visit where kittens had reportedly been there for weeks, were not allowed interaction. Dogs were immediately kenneled upon someone entering, and access to walking or interacting with certain animals was limited without clear explanation. These things may seem small to some people, but they directly affect behavior, development, enrichment, and adoptability. These animals deserve proper care, proper oversight, and a shelter system that truly puts their well-being first. As mentioned, I truly hope that there is serious consideration given to reappointing the Shelter Advisory Board because concerns are continuing to come up and they should not be ignored. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak during public input? All right, then we'll close public input and move on to electeds and department heads.
Well, you're in new business, so we'll wait till then.
Okay, nothing from electeds or department heads, and we'll move into the finance report. Besides myself, who else did APs in the last couple of weeks? I did. Okay, thank you. Is there any questions or comments?
I'll make the motion that we approve the bills in the amount of $457,058.48.
Craig will second.
All right, thank you. Opening it up to questions or comments again. And Katie, if I could direct your attention on the PDF, I believe it's on page 23. I have to get back there. And I believe the number is 210-655-810. Are you there?
Yeah.
Legal fees.
Do you see where it says legal fees?
No.
Is there something we should know about?
No, that is just our normal monthly bill we get from Cole Stoker as a retainer. And so it's actually, we probably paid this one a while ago, but because it got hung up in the system under 210, it probably just came forward now is what happened. So we could enter a bill for something, and then if it gets hung up in someone's approval status, that then is approved later, so it'll show up on a later report. But we get a whole monthly retainer, and that is split between various departments, and then it's paid. Legal fees is also under corrections in here, which is 213. And so you'll see it throughout because it's a retainer based on the utilization.
And I'm accustomed to seeing it in some of those other departments, but it caught me off guard.
We do a cost allocation among the different funds so that it's spread equally, because it's not just the general fund who's utilizing those services.
I just want to make sure there wasn't something bubbling up we should know about.
Nope.
I have no other comments or questions. We have a motion with support. Roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, we'll move into presentations. Johnston, you're first.
Working? Morning.
Morning, Chip. Thanks for being
Morning.
here.
Yep, Joseph Chip Johnston, Executive Director for Manistee Benzie CMH, otherwise known as Central Wellness Network. There. So I'm here as part of my statutory obligation to present to you our annual report. This will likely be my last time I come before you guys. I have announced my retirement effective September 30, 2026. And the board is actively looking to replace me. They've retained somebody to do a search, and that's all I'm privy to, thankfully. So with that being said, our budget is around 21 million total between Manistee and Benzie counties. The two counties contribute about 2% of our budget, of which we have that for a nanosecond. Most of it comes to us and then goes up for state general fund matching dollars. There is a little bit of local that we use and deploy with respect to our behavioral health deputy, now called the Crisis Response Officer. We are expanding that now into the city of Manistee. Here in Benzie County, we had Ferris State working with the Sheriff's Department to identify some gaps that we came across in the first 18 months of implementation. And most of that centers around early identification of the type of crisis and training with 911 and calls that come into the department, Sheriff's Department. And so they are actively interviewing now to replace the deputy who she recently moved to the city of Frankfort. So we're excited for that. We have good candidates. When I started as CEO 18 years ago, we had no school prevention. We did not provide services to vets. We did the bare minimum at the time. We were kind of a skeleton. Today, we have social workers in every level of the schools, both in Frankfort and in Benzie. And we, of course, now have a contract with TRICARE, which is the insurance for veterans. It took me 12 years to get that. Showed up on my machine one day and I signed it immediately. So very proud of all of that. Our collaboration with the powers here, the prosecutor's office, the jail, the sheriff, first responders is exemplary at this point, even with the defense attorneys or folks that we have to work with. Had some examples here lately, and we do it the old-fashioned way. When there's issues, we pick up the phone and talk to one another, which when I talk to other community mental health boards across the state, they are simply amazed that we're able to do that. And that comes from a long-standing relationship between all of us, sitting down at least quarterly and knowing who each other is and sharing cell phones. So basically, we're very healthy. The main thing I wanted to report to you is that our lawsuit against the state of Michigan trying to privatize the payment system that we have, if you will, a regional entity which some of you sit on with respect to our substance abuse funds. We won that lawsuit. We won it going away. And so the department had to pull its request for proposal. There were rumors that they were going to reissue one in May, and there has been nothing since. A lot of what's going on at this point is the transition of the government already. Folks are leaving the ship down in Lansing, and so there's a lot of chaos, and who knows what's going to happen next. And so the future, if I was to read the tea leaves, seems pretty good for now. But in the last 10 years, they've tried to bid us out 4 different times, and we've been able to avoid that. So that is the crux of my report. If there's any questions, I'm glad to take them.
This is gonna be your last shot at him, so you better go, Gary.
I better let him have it. Well, when we went to the MAC conference, they had some of a couple state senators and a couple state, and they talked about brick and mortar
Mhm.
facilities. You see that coming to fruition or not?
There is an attempt to place something in the Gaylord area. I want to say Senator DeMoose is working on that project. The problem, it tends to be trying to keep that up and running. What needs to happen, in my opinion, is it has to be a public-private partnership in order to keep it afloat. Our region and the 5 CMHs up here just having a crisis home, if you will, in Gaylord, we had to stand that up for the first year or 2 and then back out. Now it's based on per cap funding. So I can see something coming, but it's going to take a lot of collaboration and a lot of work to keep it afloat.
I kind of always look at the fact, how you're going to staff it and how you're going to maintain it.
Mhm.
But I think it is a better option if we can get there. Period.
It'd be nice to have something close. When I started, I mean, we had a center in Gaylord called the Alpine Center. We had all kinds of options. I took some of the last clients out of the state hospital in Traverse City, for example. And so a lot of those options are gone. I've spent a considerable amount of time talking to Representative Vanderwall on last week, Friday, been off, and talking about the systemic problems, because we do, as a system, need to solve what's going on. For example, the pressure on community mental health and finding placements is enormous right now, because when I started as the exec, leaving my former job, monitoring our inpatient days, we went from 365 days a year, so 1 day inpatient, to over 750 plus the last time I looked, is approaching 800 bed days. And so you essentially have over doubled the churn, if you will, or the need and reduce the beds significantly. The state hospital beds are next to nil. Trying to do anything with not guilty by reason of insanity and all of that, folks wind up sitting in the jail far longer waiting for a bed to be evaluated than if they'd have just pled guilty. And so there's a lot of systemic issues that I think the state needs to really focus on.
We need to quit housing folks at the jail.
Yes.
It's not, it makes it worse, in my opinion, but
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd say, as your last shot, what would you have us do as commissioners? What would you urge us to do better to support community mental health?
Oh, well, I think that's hard to say, because you get this board and the Manistee County Commission have been very, very supportive. I think the program they have with the Benzie Sheriff's Department and the Crisis Response Officer I see that progressing significantly and continue to support that. Mostly through in-kind, because as you know, that's a position that we're funding. But I think respecting this, having the in-kind, the space, the support for it, we're a hair's breadth from getting that paid for by the state of Michigan. I got support last week was busy even though I was off, from the Medicaid director herself to fund it and to support that. So we're going to enter into a grant program. The state of Michigan's now going to evaluate what's going on, and then hopefully that'll be funded ongoing. So those kinds of supports, and in the future, who knows who's going to be in this chair? And just to try to foster ongoing communication and cooperation.
And we do have you till September, so it's not like you're leaving tomorrow, right?
Right.
I think he's
Good luck.
checked out.
What does Art always say? Put
Right.
in your paperwork, you're out of here.
Ouch. Go ahead, Tim.
All right, first of all, Chip, I want to thank you for years of service. Been a pleasure working with you, although I will continue doing so until September.
Right.
We talked about the number of beds, but how does that affect the juvenile population here? Because I think that is a worse condition than the adults.
Much, yes, very much so. I did want to touch on that, but there's so many things to convey. Again, going back to when we were monitoring it and had availability and other resources that were around us and to support us, we would have maybe one child a year go into the state hospital, and then maybe one every quarter. So 4 go into a private hospital. That is sometimes monthly now or twice a month now. And I attribute that to a lot of different things, a lot of societal stuff, Facebook, and so on. And also the retraction of state services to children. There used to be something called Strong Families, Safe Children that was a huge prevention program through the Human Services Collaborative, and we would sit and work out things, summer camps and so forth. That stuff has really been pulled back. You can ask, you have to talk to Ms. Savage about it, but they've centralized a lot of things where a protective service call now has to go to someone in Lansing. Whereas it would come here to the local office, we would know the families, we would get involved, we would try to be preventative about it. I mean, I remember with our prevention programs, it was simple as, there was a lot of truancy, and the reason was because the house needed cleaning. I mean, there was constant issues, lice and so forth. So we would go in and help that situation and help the health of the child and the system around it. A lot of that started to go away.
Okay. One more thing for you. Our neighbors do affect us. And Commissioner and I have reported a couple of times on our neighbors to the north.
Mm-hmm.
How are they doing today?
Well, since you've allowed me to work with them, they have a new leader there. Last year she started in October. She had to clean up last year. Their budget is around, don't quote me completely, it's around $80 to $90 million, and ours is 21. But they overran by about 13. They now, however, have systems in place where they're now communicating to the counties and they're communicating internally, and they're identifying their biggest issue, and that's in the contract division and residential. So they're beginning to pare back that loss and overrun, if you will. The numbers haven't come in just yet, but the kind of the rough first quarter of this year, the bleed has slowed considerably. So I like where they're going, but there's such a behemoth, and they have 6 counties, and that's going to take a lot of time. Fortunately, the region's healthy enough where we're supporting them, the other 4.
Good questions. Anything else?
Got one.
Please.
You mentioned working now with TRICARE. Tell me how that's improved or enhanced your position.
Yeah. Prior to TRICARE, if someone came in our door, we would literally say, we really can't, other than a crisis, we can't help you. And so sometimes I remember back in the battle days, we had the sheriff deliver somebody to Battle Creek, and they were like, which is the VA center, right?
Yeah.
And they would say, we can't take them. And I said, you just leave. And they did take them.
Right.
Yeah, because that's how you would have to get them. Now with TRICARE, we can see them outpatient in our clinic. deal with that. And now there's actually the center up here in Traverse that helps too. So there's been a vast improvement with veteran services since when I was running around in the woods. And so, but like I said, that system is slow. It took me like 12 years to get that agreement. But now that we have it, and certain areas in Benzie County are service desert still and in Manistee, so we can pull them in and serve them right away.
Perfect.
Like that.
If I could, Rhonda or Tim, as representatives for the commissioners to that agency, can you describe for us what the process is for hiring the next exec?
Sure. We had an RFP created and we received 7 responses from different firms. Each firm was interviewed by the full board. Don Tanner asked the same questions of each firm. Those evaluations were, or it was attended heavily by the board. And at the last meeting, an actual selection, we did a straw poll. 2 firms rose to the top, with 1 firm receiving 2 more votes than the second place firm, and that was the firm that was selected. And they proposed a really incredible process to select the next person to fill those shoes, which are pretty big shoes. And I look forward to working with the firm. It's going to be bittersweet. Chip has been wonderful to work with. He has served Benzie and Manistee counties in an amazing capacity, and just wish you all good things in the future.
Anything you want to add, Tim?
No, just can't wait for Chip to be gone.
Well, as Gary mentioned, it's always been my experience that your mind begins to drift to where you want to be rather than where you're at. But it's not, if I could speak for myself, probably for the board also, we've had 2 huge benefits. One is your skills and reputation. I mean, for those people that don't know it, you're well respected regionally, statewide, throughout the country. When we get that type of talent here, that really puts us on the map. But equally as important for me is the relationship you've had with our board. And I hope that we're able to fill both of those standards going forward. Like you said, it's going to be big shoes to fill, but we're going to hold them accountable.
Thank you. I hope you do. Well, it's been, in my final words, 40 years of this work. 37 with Manistee and Benzie counties, from the ground all the way up. It's been a pleasure working with everybody here. We're neighbors. We know each other. We can find each other if we need to. That to me is the key. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Janie, how about you? You're not going anywhere, right?
She just got hired.
We've had little turnover there, though.
Yeah. No, you can't get rid of me that easy. Just before I get started, I would like to echo the kudos to Mr. Johnston, just to embarrass him further. Working across the 10 counties, I do know there's a lot of admiration for the system that's been built here in Benzie and Manistee County, and a lot of that is due to his leadership. So appreciate that.
Can I get your name?
Janie McNabb.
Yep.
The CEO of Networks Northwest. And I too am here to present the annual report. In your packet, you have a 1-page summary of the report that looks like this. So if you want to reference that, it's just got some high-level outcomes. I have a PowerPoint, which is basically a replica of the full report, which is available online.
Driver,
Yeah. It is kind of a longer report, a longer PowerPoint, so I'm just going to do a few highlights. All of the data, all the numbers that you see here are region-wide. So we cover 10 counties, the Northwestern Lower Peninsula. We provide more than 50, a little over 50 programs that all either serve the talent, the businesses, or the communities of the region. And so I will, like I said, just go through a few highlights. This is what's on your your one pager. Few things pertinent to Benzie County. We had about 10,000 adults served in our workforce development programs. Those programs are offered through our nonprofit arm, which is Northwest Michigan Works. Over 550 of those were from Benzie County, which is actually a 10% increase over last year. So while we saw an increase overall, we do believe that we're doing a better job of outreach and connection with Benzie County residents in our workforce programs. We also had more than 75 youth served from Benzie County. Specifically, we worked with Frankfort and Benzie Central Schools. If you're paid attention recently, we had a My Career Quest event. That is a very large scale career exploration event for ninth graders. We had about 2,000 ninth graders from around the region come to the Civic Center in Traverse City and do very hands-on career exploration to see what's available right here in our own backyard. They did things like work on, there's a whole healthcare aisle. They could do ultrasounds of each other, pretend to fill dental implants, cauterize the outside of an orange peel, all kinds of very hands-on kinds of things. They had a whole pit crew for automotive. The fire department was there. They actually set a fire and the kids put it out. It was a little bit, nerve-wracking to watch, but they had poles that the kids could climb to see what it's like to be a utility worker. So all kinds of hands-on things, but we're really grateful that Frankfort and Benzie Central sent students to that. For our business services, one of our primary programs is to connect with businesses and help them access resources to train their workforce. And we were able to obtain $158,000 for businesses in Benzie County. And they trained 67 workers, including 29 apprentices in that program. And our apprenticeship program has also expanded in Benzie County. We have apprenticeships with Moore Mechanical, plumber, and heating and cooling installer. We have a water systems operator at Thompsonville DPW. We have an early childhood educator at both Benzie schools and Whistle Stop Early Learning Center. I think we talked about Whistle Stop last year. Graceland Fruit, Ironfish, et cetera. So really doing what we can to help Benzie County businesses train their workforce. Couple of other highlights in here. This was our My Career Quest event last year. If you do get online, I encourage you to watch this video. It's about 4 minutes long, and it is the students themselves being interviewed, having gone through all the different opportunities to do career exploration. I'll highlight Riley Brown. Riley Brown is in one of our youth programs called Jobs for Michigan's Graduates. Riley was honored at the national level for being a leader in her high school and in the Jobs for Michigan's Graduates program. And she is from Honor. So we were just so incredibly proud of the work she's done, the career trajectory she's on. She really wants to work with young people after she goes through college. And she was the president of the statewide Youth Advisory Council and then went to Washington, D.C. and received honors nationally. I'll also talk about our Apex Accelerator program. Are you familiar with that? So this is a program that helps businesses sell their goods and services to government agencies at all levels, local, state, federal. And it's a program that ensures that the small businesses in our region get a share of that market. There would be massive companies, corporations from downstate and large metropolitan areas that would be getting those contracts without our help. So we're able to help small companies actually get a chance to compete, to get ready to be government contract viable. And so in Benzie County, we work with Graceland Fruit. They were actually a highlight last year where they were our business of the year in that program. But again, this year they had over $5.8 million in contracts through the USDA. And we helped them with the bid matching, with case statements, with accessing that market. And then for our community department, which is our regional planning and several different grants that are several different programs that are both regional and local. We have been working with the Village of Thompsonville and Colfax Township Joint Planning Committee on their master plan update. We have a variety of programs, transportation, our comprehensive economic development strategy, and individual projects. I do want to acknowledge and thank you for your investment in economic development. We have connected with John Willow, the new executive director of the Benzie Chamber. She has joined our comprehensive economic development strategy group and regional convening of other economic development leaders in the 10 counties. She participated in a strategy session recently and provided excellent input. We're really excited to have her in that group and include her in that regional strategy for economic development. So appreciate that you are seeing the need for that and supporting it. And here's our financial summary. Budget and expenses last year were a little over $13 million. We have, kind of an equal split of federal and state funding support. And then our programs that are funded towards helping talent, business, and community. Obviously, our largest ones are talent. Talent can be a little more costly because we put a lot of resources into those supports and training dollars. But obviously doing everything we can to make this a great place to live, work, and participate and engage in civil life. And that's the synergy of those three service lines that we offer. What questions can I answer for you?
With the tightening of the federal and state budgets and most of your income or revenues from grants, how's that affecting Networks Northwest?
I had this question everywhere I went last year. And because there was a lot of uncertainty at the federal level. There was the Department of Governmental Efficiency. There was kind of delays in paying out awarded grants due to additional review for administrative efficiency. And so at the time, last year at this time, we were more concerned because of those interventions. However, this year we are not seeing those same like extra layers of review, and we are seeing a lot of support for the kinds of things we do, like apprenticeships. The president has set a goal of 1 million apprenticeships in the next remaining 3 years. We have to be a big part of that. Michigan is 4th in the nation in apprenticeships, and our region is a leader in the state. So we have already identified the opportunity to earn and learn at the same time as a win-win-win. It's good for businesses, it's good for people, good for their families. And it is probably the most effective while being efficient workforce strategy, especially in rural areas. So we believe we are on the right track and that there's support for that. The state level, they did reduce that Going Pro Talent Fund, which is that support for businesses to train their workforce. However, there's movement to potentially increase it back up this year because there's so much need so many more grant applications than available funding, that we can definitely prove a need for more investment in that.
Thanks, Tim. Other comments or questions?
Could I please get you to expand a little bit more on the Thompsonville Colfax Master Plan partnership?
Yeah, so they contracted with us to support facilitating their master plan update. I believe it's been about 10 years since they did their master plan from scratch. So we have facilitated the process, public input, research, looking at land use, current and future land use. And so we're finishing that up right now.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? And Janie, before I let you move away from the podium, first, a couple of comments. I appreciate the fact that Networks Northwest is here in our community. I think they play a very important role and not always recognized. I appreciate the fact that you acknowledged that we're trying to make a bigger effort as commissioners for economic development, because our dollars are rare and we have to make serious decisions about where they go.
Yeah.
I think it's worth me noting that Going Pro, and I'm not sure what the name was, but when I was employing people many years ago, I used that when I'd bring in new employees.
Yeah.
That was really valuable because we could afford to overstaff slightly in order to make that happen.
Right.
My question for you is, your workforce and workforce development is probably paramount to what you do. But you can't improve on that unless there's housing.
True.
What's your relationship with the region with respect to your role in housing and how you work with Housing North, maybe?
So first of all, in all of our regional planning, region-wide programming, we see housing as a really critical need. Obviously, it's a challenge for everyone and everything. In our workforce and business programs, housing has been one of what I call the top three, the big three, barriers to employment for decades. Going back probably 25 years, the Department of Health and Human Services did an analysis of those individuals on public assistance at the time. And the top three challenges that they faced to getting and keeping a job were childcare, transportation, and housing. At this time, I think childcare and housing have really accelerated in terms of those challenges. The cost, the availability is even more of an issue. When we work with communities on master planning, zoning updates, regional perspectives, and so forth, we bring best practices to the table. We look at other similar communities that might be, making progress toward addressing that challenge and help that community see where they might make some changes or adjustments in order to address the problem. Ultimately, it comes down to what that community wants. They get to define. And so we write the plan according to their preferences. We also go out of our way to make sure that community input is really robust and thorough. So where traditionally community input session might be held once or twice in a location on an afternoon for an hour or two, we go way beyond that. We go to festivals. We hand out QR codes to take surveys. We do focus groups with young people, different civic groups, et cetera. So we make sure that what we bring back to that local government truly reflects what people want. And oftentimes housing is identified in that as a priority.
You represent your region's 9 counties, is that right?
10.
10 counties. What in the counties that you work with, what are the commissioners, what's their involvement in housing? What are they doing that we should maybe take a look at in terms of our role as a county?
For counties?
Yeah.
Well, definitely acknowledging it as an issue in master plans. So, like recognizing that when it comes to economic development, housing is an economic development need and strategy. It's not singular housing as an issue. It affects everything else. I think there's lots of opportunity to get more involved. But I think that's a great question. And I think that it's something we can talk further about at our Council of Governments meetings. There has been some discussion. Last meeting, Commissioner Markey was in attendance. We talked about the bills at the legislature right now that are focused on zoning for housing readiness and viability, which there's a lot of opposition to those bills because it gets into local control. But I think there's general acknowledgement that something needs to be done. Maybe those particular bills aren't the right answer, but something needs to be done to make it more viable.
Anytime you can bring us information that guides us would be helpful.
Mhm.
I'm not in favor of government owning housing, but I believe there's a role,
Mhm.
and we're still trying to understand what is that role.
Yeah.
Any last comments or questions? Thanks for taking the time to be here today.
Well, thank you. And I also want to thank you for your support every year. It means a lot. It allows us to match funding at the federal level to support our operations and some of our regional planning programs. And thank you to Commissioner Markey for being so engaged and representing you so well.
Thank you. Katie, we're moving to unfinished business. As we do with each meeting, I'd like to have some conversation regarding the general operating millage.
Alrighty, so in your packet, we have included the information related to the general operating millage that we've included over the last couple of meetings, but you will notice that there is a new graphic that has been put into the packet. So I know it's a busy graphic, but it really does cover all the things in one snapshot. And so the general operating millage, I've been presenting on it now for quite a few months, and I've really come down to the last couple. And so some of the things that I've heard from the community specifically is what are the numbers? And so just today, I thought I would go over a few things that have increased exponentially over the last 5 years, which is showing why our expenditures are continuing to outpace any sort of small additional revenues that we've also received over the last 5 years. So when it comes to the general operating millage, the argument has been, but you still receive revenue dollars, additional revenue dollars each year. And what we're trying to demonstrate to the community is, yes, that's indeed true. However, the expenditures that we are required to spend are continuously outpacing that. And as it outpaces every year, it just compounds into a much bigger difference. And so just since 2021, since I came to Benzie County, some of the things that have went up drastically. So one is being the BS&A. BS&A going from about a $20,000 a year expenditure, next year will be over $90,000 for BS&A. And BS&A, as you know, is the suite that we use for almost all of the functions within Benzie County when it comes to finance. So accounts payable, general ledger, accounts receivable, tax, assessing, payroll, all of those are through that BS&A suite. So just that difference, 20 to 90, over 90,000. Another thing that's increased drastically is Microsoft Office, and everyone's probably felt this. Microsoft went from buying a license to having an ongoing monthly subscription. And so that cost has went up dramatically because we used to be able to buy a license, and then if somebody would leave, we could just shift that license to somebody else. Well, now it's an ongoing monthly subscription for those licenses. And so we went from paying about $200 to $300 for a license a year to now we're paying over $10,000 a month for licenses ongoing. It's not a one-time hit anymore.
Katie,
Now-
can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
Just before you leave that thought, BS&A, just if folks ask, well, why don't you leave for a cheaper
Yeah.
something than BS&A? It doesn't exist.
Yeah, so we've looked elsewhere. Other counties are still looking elsewhere, trying to find something else. And there's just not another suite out there that covers the array of items that we use it for. The other issue we have too is all of our townships are also in the BS&A suite. And if we switch, that muddies the water too for the communication we have with townships. And as a county, we communicate with the townships on various levels when it comes to tax and assessing and those other things. So if Benzie County were to switch, it creates this whole ripple effect, which is just going to cost the townships as well. Network security. So as you know, over the last 5 years, we've really invested in our network security, and that has paid off. IT costs money. And some of you will remember that we did have a breach in cybersecurity a couple of years ago, and we fared very well to our neighbors. Our security breach was at the same time as Wexford County and Grand Traverse County and TCAPS. And as you know, we fared very well, but we prepared ourselves for things such as that. And we invested into the network security. We invested into those additional softwares to protect the information and data that Benzie County is holding. But those things do cost a lot of money. One that's pretty just every day is the utilizing of our HVAC. Our HVAC system, now the company that we've utilized has been bought out by larger agencies. Those larger agencies, it's no more of your good old neighbor and working with you when there's calls for service and those sorts of things. And so specifically for our HVAC units, for something as simple that would have been a call and, hey, we'll help you real quick, is now a service call that they're charging mileage for, and they're charging time for, and they're charging these things for. So just to have somebody to come out to look at our HVAC unit if something is failing, $2,000 just like that. Whereas before they'd come out, look at it, diagnose it, that was free, and then you paid for the fix. Now we're paying $2,000 just for people to diagnose an issue with one of our HVAC units. One of those things that we just can't control. Another agency that we work with, and we are exploring other vendors, is Stericycle. So Stericycle is a vendor that we work with that disposes of the bodily waste after an autopsy. So there's special barrels for that service that tripled monthly. So we went from paying about $970 to $1,000 a month to dispose of that bodily waste. Now it's over $3,000 a month to dispose of that bodily waste. We are trying to find other vendors, but what we're running into is they're all quite expensive. And that was a cost that we just were not prepared for because there was no notice of that cost. Our liability insurance. So Benzie County has liability insurance, just like most folks have for their homes, their businesses. When I came to Benzie County in 2021, our annual premium was about $152,000 for liability. Just last year, our premium was $245,000. So in 4.5 years, our premium went from $152,000 to $245,000. And that's not coming now next year. We're waiting on that renewal here anytime, which will be higher. So that's a huge increase over the life of four years. Health insurance for our staff. You all recall the smack in the face last year, 2 years ago, for the 42% increase. We had to make drastic changes. And even though we made drastic changes and we did see quite a small number of a bump, we still, over time from 2021 until now, have increased our costs dramatically for insurance. Now, I did have a meeting with Gallagher last week when we were at our Mako conference, and our renewal for this year is looking really good. And really good means under 10%. Still crazy, but it's supposed to be under 10%. Another item, body cams and dash cams. Now, very important. We need those for the operations of our staff. But one, those were a huge hit. And two, it's ongoing costs. Again, almost everything that we're utilizing now is subscription basis. And it's not because we want to, it's the way the world is going. Adobe is subscription basis. The body cam storage is subscription basis. Our cloud storage is subscription basis. And we can't do anything about that. And so all those are just extra costs that are continuously lopping on top of what we were paying the year before. And they're costs that we just can't control. We look for other vendors when we can. And the breaks of it is almost everyone is charging a subscription, and all those subscriptions are not cheap. And so that's just some of the things that we're talking about when we talk to the community about why are the costs outweighing. Those are costs that we can't control. There really isn't anyone else for liability and property coverage. We could look for somebody else, but will the cost be cheaper? Most likely not. We reap the benefit with the MMRMA of being part of the original members, and it's pooled. And we do get net asset distributions every year. We also reap the benefit of grants from them for small projects that we do. So those benefits outweigh. But for the other things, there's really not a lot of options. Health insurance, we did switch companies, but we can't just keep switching companies because one, our numbers are limited. There's only a few companies out there. And if we continue to hop back and forth, that actually hurts us a lot more in the long run, because then those companies don't want to bid on our group, and then we're stuck with those higher prices at the end of the day. So we're limited too on some of that movement we can do among those vendors as well. That's kind of just what I wanted to go over when it came to the Headley Amendment. As everyone knows, the election is coming up on August 4th. I am speaking with Noon Rotary here in just about 2 weeks. And then I believe we have nailed down a date for an EMS open house. And that EMS open house too, we were going to have information related to the general operating millage. So we're looking at Saturday, June 27th for an EMS open house, and that would be a community event for anyone that would like to come to that. And we'd have information there as well.
Be up in Pennsylvania or where?
That's the tentative plan. I have been trying to put more information on social media. You may have noticed a post a few days ago on social media related to the related to the general operating millage. And then Michael Beach and I are connecting this week about putting together our first podcast episode to get that out there as well. MSU Extension, I did meet with them, and they're able to help us edit any of those videos, make those videos a bit more interactive in the sense of popping up visuals and PowerPoints while Michael and I are speaking on those. So they are able to help us kind of modify and manipulate those videos so that we can add things, elements to those videos. So we're meeting this week on that specifically. So hopefully by next week, we'll have our first episode out as far as that goes. And then I've also been working with John Willow with the chamber, the executive director, and she's assisting with putting out some information as well as working on some better elevator speeches for all of you. And then I'm also working with Greta Bulger, and she has also offered to work with me to create some of those visuals and elevator pitch type information to help get that into the community from more of a layman's term. I speak this every day, and I'm giving the same spiel every week. And so at this point, I'm kind of on autopilot with that. So having folks that are outside of this conversation give their perspective, I think will help the community also better understand the topic, because it's coming from someone who's not speaking about it every day. Any question?
Comments or questions?
I guess I have,
Tim?
we talk about all these costs that counties incurring that are going up or are new. How is it, I can't answer this, by the way. How is it that all these companies are charging so much higher, much greater than what the inflation rate is? I mean, this is what the normal homeowner's not seeing for their expense.
You want my opinion, or you want me to just say I can't answer that?
It's more of a statement than a
Yeah.
question. I do believe people would say, well, my home, my finances, inflation rate, I have to work within my budget. How come the county's gonna need more money? They should have to work within their budget as well.
Sure. I think some of the argument related to that is in your home, there are some expenses that can be considered discretionary. Whereas as Benzie County, I just can't cancel internet, because then the entire service realm that we provide cannot be provided, because we need the internet for almost every service that we're providing. So I can't just cancel the internet, right? I can't just switch internet providers. One, the provider may not be there, an additional provider, but two, to offer the protections to the network, we do need certain types of connection. And we can't just shop around, go to a T-Mobile hotspot. That doesn't work from a large organization standpoint. And some of these other ones we're stuck in this weird loop of it is the only provider, right? So BSNA, we have talked about at the county level and on the different listservs, trying to find other softwares out there, and the options are just not there. So there's no option to find another vendor in those circumstances. And we're so tied into this vendor providing so many different services to the community, we can't just say, oh, we'll do without. If it was just maybe we could find and, just do without and go back to paper and pencil, but we can't when it's the entire suite that then affects all townships in the city and the village within Benzie County. And so in a lot of ways, we're pigeonholed to some of these costs that we have because of this level of service we're providing and because of the ripple effect it would have to the rest of the community.
Gary?
I just wanted I get the Leelanau paper. There's an article in there about their increase that they're getting through this year's taxes. And it looks to me like they're gonna take the $400 and some thousand increase that they've got and just put it in a separate account or a rainy day fund. Just saying, this is probably some of the stuff you're up against.
Mhm.
And they have a hell of a lot bigger tax base than we do by a long shot, but
And that's the kicker
I'll
is their
try to bring
tax
that up
base.
so and pass it around.
And that's the kicker is their tax base. I mean, Benzie County, or not Benzie County, Leelanau County, from a taxable value standpoint, is my understanding, is the wealthiest or close to the wealthiest county in Michigan. So when they're by default collecting more taxes than Benzie County because their taxable value is so much higher than Benzie County, yet we're providing comparable, similar service. They're just getting more money to provide those services because their tax base is so much higher. Yep.
I just,
Same thing for Grand Traverse County. Their tax base grew like crazy
No
with this
kidding.
recent census. And so, in a lot of ways, we're stuck because we have so much property within Benzie County that is non-taxable. And so we're limited unless we start cutting down properties, cutting down parcels from a 20 acre minimum, maybe a little smaller. We're doing this to ourselves because we cannot continue to add more tax base because we're limited on the property that we have. And some townships are not willing to shrink that. And I can appreciate that. It's part of it is the general look and feel of Benzie County. And we want large parcels and we want this beautiful landscape, but what's the balance? And I think right now we don't have a balance.
didn't you say before there's 30 or 40% of the property in Benzie County that does not pay taxes?
That's correct. We
And
have
that,
over
to me, is a
30%.
huge mistake.
Yeah.
Because it has to be consistent to every taxpayer. And I can see where the Conservancy gets away with it.
Mm.
If you own property and you put it into forestry programs
Yep.
and things like that. And it's always the people that have money that are able to do this, but
And we can't.
the
we
rest
can't
of us are
control it.
paying the freight.
That's right. And we can't control what's considered
Yeah.
taxable and
A
non-taxable.
lot of times we give them permission to do that.
Correct.
Don't know what the answer is there either.
Yeah, we're poking ourselves in the foot.
I would comment, Leelanau County, we have about 18,000 residents. Leelanau County has about 22,000 residents. Our budget's about $9 million a year. Their budget's close to $19 million a year. That can't even make a fair comparison. We really don't have anything to say about what goes off the tax rolls. Our most recent example is over in Alberta.
Yep.
Very valuable lakefront property. And half of that, it looks like, has gone over, will stay in the Conservancy.
Mhm.
It just, it's until the state decides to limit how much we can have off the tax rolls, it'll be out of our control.
Right.
Katie, and I want to open it up to the other group again, but our water costs, even like in Beulah, just like the residents and businesses in Beulah, our water cost has gone up incredibly high from what I can see.
Yes.
And it's going higher.
That's my list. Yeah, and it'll continue to raise. The other thing too is animal control was required to be put onto the village system where it was never on there before. So that was an added cost as well to put it onto the system. And now that's, that monthly and quarterly cost too. It was on a well before. And then about 2 years ago, the village demanded it be put onto the system. And so, yes, those costs also are exponentially raising.
And when we talk about what would I do at home and why can't we emulate that at the county level? Another example I would give would be gas. We got to have the patrol cars out there. We've got to have the emergency vehicles out there. At home, I can make the decision whether or not I want to get into the car and go somewhere.
Correct.
We really don't have that choice. But Tim, I think, brings up a really valid point, and I hear this also. It's, as the expression is, tightening the belt.
Yep.
Why can't the county do that? Because I have to do that at home. We need to be able to explain the difference.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that before I was a commissioner, I would have asked that very same question. I just really didn't understand the finances
Yep.
of the government and obligations we have that we can't forego that the average homeowner doesn't have.
Yeah, pension liability, that's an obligation that we have to pay. We offer 24-hour services with the jail. There are certain licensing requirements with animal control and to run a jail and to do other things. So we have to have higher cost things to provide those services. And so that just continues to play in. Some of those things, at home, you're not having 27 people flush a toilet all night on a municipal water system. Well, I can't tell an inmate they can't use the bathroom. So, you think about those things, at home, there's 4 or 5 of you, but we're running an entire jail. We have an animal control that has numerous animals in there, and we have to have a certain water pressure and a certain water heat and those sorts of things. And so these are just all requirements that we're forced to follow, which then affect the overall cost of the service we're trying to provide.
What we don't have the advantage of in the education is being able to share with the community our budgeting processes, how much we drill down, really looking at almost every line item each time. We don't have the opportunity to talk about the adjustments we've made in our pension plans that have long-term benefits,
Yep.
our health insurances that we've adjusted to try to slow down the cost of it. We're going to have to continue to work very hard between now and the middle of July to communicate all of that.
Yep.
Other comments or questions, Len?
My question is real similar to what you were talking about. Katie, have you seen any evidence or received any feedback from fellow taxpayers demonstrating that our programs and our service, the value of that? I mean, it really is a value judgment at the end of the day when you're in that ballot box. Do I need it? Do I want it or not? Is it not valuable? Are you getting any feedback from the local populace about that in your?
Not really, but what I will say is this: counties are the provider of last resort. Counties don't get to provide the fun things that some other municipalities like cities and villages can provide. We provide you a court system, and typically if you're in the court system, it's not because it's a good reason. We provide a jail, usually not a good reason of why you're in jail. And so we're the provider of last resort in many instances. The fun things at Benzie County is we issue a birth certificate and we finalize the sale of a piece of property. But every other reason that you're coming to Benzie County isn't typically because you want to be here. It's a delinquent tax. It's a death certificate. And so when you're thinking about those services as the average person going to the ballot box, you're not thinking about the fun services that I get to provide. You're not thinking about, oh, fire. I might never have a fire, but I want it there. And so we're not providing those services. So we have to remind the taxpayers that there are certain services that we need to have on the books, because if we need them, we really need them. And while they might not be the sexy services that we all want to have, they're the services that continue to keep our community safe. And they're the services that we absolutely need for those that are most vulnerable in our community.
We've spent about 20 minutes on this. Any other comments or questions? And we'll continue to talk about this. Just because you mentioned it, I'll be meeting at their request. I'm meeting with John Willow this afternoon again.
Oh, good.
See if we can get them on board. All right. If there's nothing else, let's move into new business. We're looking, do you want to introduce the first subject? And I think there was a handout on this.
Yep, everyone should have received a handout on your desk this morning before the meeting. And I'll give you a quick second to read it if you'd like. Come up, Karen.
Exciting.
So the Veterans Affairs Office is looking to have a part-time individual to help with digitizing and filing of the office. And so Karen Korolenko is here today to answer any questions from this group related to this position specifically. There have not been dollars allocated for this position within the Veterans Affairs, the general fund, or either. And it's my understanding that the person that she's looking to bring on has been helping on a volunteer basis. And so the idea is to bring this person on to continue this work, but to be paid for it. It's up to this board on allocating the dollars, where those dollars are going to come from, and whether or not this becomes a contracted position or just a part-time rostered position. With a part-time rostered position, you have to keep in mind the Fed FICA. You have to keep in mind that if they breached 30 hours, we have to offer them health benefits. That's required under the ACA. With a contracted position, it's a little different. Those are paid through accounts payable and it's a contract for service. So that person would be 1099 versus part-time is going to be your W-2 employees.
Karen,
Yes.
would you like to address the commissioners?
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak. So I've been working in the Veterans Office for about 7.5 years. So there's a tremendous amount of paperwork now that will no longer fit in our file cabinets. So I'm looking to try and get that digitized, get everything, we can archive the records, the hard copies, but get everything on the computer, which will make it a lot more accessible and easier to access. We do have a lady who has been assisting for some time. She's a widow of a veteran. She is not looking for full-time. She is not looking for benefit. She is simply just looking to help supplement and help out where she can. Supplement her income and help the Veterans Office where she can. So I'm just looking to see about getting her hired in.
Bob, as chair, would you like to offer any comments on this?
I did realize that initially the conversation was at $18.50 an hour, and I see now it's over 21 and change or something. I guess I wasn't made privy to that.
When I met with Katie and Leslie, Leslie said the going rate would be $21.20 an hour. So yes, it went from 18, which is basically what I was just, tentatively anticipating, to the $21.20 that Leslie mentioned while I was meeting with Katie.
For the various other part-time employees that we have, we try to keep them all consistent. And so 2120 is what the other part-timers for Benson County are making.
May I comment on this?
Please.
Because I was one of the ones that either made the motion or seconded it. I'm in favor of this, but I'm in favor of the money coming out of the Veterans Affairs fund, which is where I thought it was coming from. And somehow it got transferred into the general fund. So as long as we stay there, and I would prefer a contract employee, just because there's so many things that can change and cost the county more money. So, but I think the Veterans Affairs Fund is big enough to handle this,
It
so,
is.
and it won't last forever, it's only a temporary thing, so. I would go that route, I don't know how to word the motion.
I wouldn't either.
Karen, so it has been, the request that as we understand it, is to be funded from the general fund. Is this, do you have it within your budget to do it? To pay for it?
I have an unused fund balance. I don't know how that plays into the general fund, but I do have funds in that that we could use that for. It was also mentioned that maybe it would come from the state grant. State grants initiative we were going to use for this year was to provide dental services for veterans. So I really would like to avoid using the state grant for the part-time assistant.
But you have money in your surplus that would pay for this year.
Yes, I do.
I would just mirror what Gary said. I can see taking on this task and, a lot of gratitude to this volunteer for the work she's done already. But at some point you're going to get caught up. And I would be reluctant to want to make a rostered position part-time. From that point on, is it foreseeable that you'd be able to stay on top of the digitization once it's gotten to a point where
The backlog.
the backlog is handled? Yeah. So I would support the contracted position. And I do think shifting funds muddies the waters. I really think this needs to be paid out of the veterans' monies.
Gary, it sounded, I'll say that, we need to craft a motion one way or the other if you want to take action today.
Gonna help me or are you gonna make me try to make a mess out of it?
Before I do that, what I would recommend is a dollar amount for that contract. So the Veterans Affairs Fund has about $68,000 in their fund balance. What would the board's comfort level be for, I would do a lump sum dollar amount as part of your motion.
Can we calculate?
I hear what you're saying. I guess my question is, if it's within their budget and they can't exceed their budget,
$580.
why would we have to set a dollar amount on it?
Well, because the only way to use fund balance is by board action, and unless you want me to come back monthly to get board action, to $68,000 on a $200,000
I
fund.
came up with 13.
You know, you're already riding
Thinking-
fairly close to the line of 25%.
If you
How
did
many
11 weeks,
hours?
I'm going 52 weeks.
Can we just have one conversation at a
Sorry.
time? You want to finish that, please?
So you got about a $200,000 fund, you have about a $68,000 fund balance. You're already riding close to your policy limit of about 25%. And then fund balance can only be utilized at the approval of this Board of Commissioners. So rather than trying to bring back an expenditure monthly to this board, it would make sense for you to say, we're going to allocate this many $1,000s to this project. And if they can't get it done, then we can talk about that in a few months.
Right.
Otherwise you say, here's the amount of money to do this project, period.
Yeah, I think my recommendation would be, for the purposes of this conversation, is to recommend for the next 4 months. I mean, we're coming up on a new budgeting, but we have 4 months left in this budgeting year. And then, you know, Karen, if you see this going into the next year, this project, you know, you can provide for that in your budget for the upcoming fiscal year
4 months.
with a contracted line, you know, contracted services, and then guesstimate at that point. But I think to finish out the year, if we were going to support this, just consider what the cost would be for the next 4 months. Does that make sense?
So
So 16.
21.20 an hour times 24 a week for 16 weeks is $8,140.80.
How much?
$8,140.80. That would be for 16 weeks, 4 months ish.
So we could say up to something.
$8,
10 grand.
The fund balance is 68, yes,
and their budget is how much?
about 200,000.
So if we kept the fund balance above 50, that's still above at the 25%. So if we allocated $10,000 from the fund balance, we'd still be within our
Yes,
range.
yes.
Right.
And then we can adjust this again in 4 months if
The need
there's
arises.
still effort that needs to be done.
Okay.
Does that sound like a
Sounds
reasonable?
reasonable to me.
It does. It does. 7.5 years of records. It does take a little time though. So
It may definitely take longer than 4 months.
I don't
What is
think
this?
they're saying no.
Kimberly Bridges.
Bridges? So Gary, your motion could be that the Board of Commissioners authorizes a contract with Kim Bridges in the not to exceed amount of $10,000 to provide digitization services to the Veterans Affairs,
The funds coming from a surplus.
with the funds coming from the Veterans Affairs Fund
If
balance.
that's your motion, Gary, I'd support it.
And if
Catching up with
if
Tammy.
Tammy's got,
Hands. fine.
that's my motion.
I haven't used my deep voice, so it sounded like you.
We have a motion with support. Is there other comments or questions?
Who did the support?
Bob,
Bob? Are you up with us?
Up and up.
We'll just keep an eye on it, and see how things are going for the next couple months, and
yeah, I don't think we're locked in,
nope.
but we'll get it done.
Aaron, my concern with the motion is that it specifically says for the digitization project. Are you likely to have them do anything else while they're there?
Well, what we're looking to do is I'm looking to go into the VA system. VBMS pulled the most recent code sheet. So at a glance, when you go into that veterans file, you can see exactly what they have been awarded, what conditions they're recognized for, all of that right up front. So hopefully it streamlines some of that. But what I'm going to have her do is put it in date order so that when it scans in, you're not having to go through everything. It'll be in a certain order and it'll all be right front and center when you bring it up.
Okay.
But that takes some time to get everything in date order and get it scanned in and all of that.
So my concern is that the motion's fairly narrow in terms of what they're being contracted for. You can keep them within that scope. Or do you need broader language, more latitude? Like to bring him on for digitization and other administrative activities?
Actually, I kind of drafted up here. Would include all aspects required to digitize veterans' files and any additional office support needed.
The way the motion's crafted right now is pretty narrow.
Right.
And I don't want to get you in hot water.
And that's kind of vague. The digitization of stuff that has been done in the past coming forward is one thing, but new claims and new activities going on in the office, I don't think that this person, number one, has the credentials to be doing that. And number two, that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at, let's get caught up. You still have your job, what you do. But this person is not in that capacity.
Right. She's not authorized to do claims anyway, so she.
Exactly. And I want that clarified.
What we got? I mean, anything?
Well, just a minute, I'm redoing her again, so I have it all in one line.
We're gonna have to ask you to read it back, please.
Okay, let's try this. To authorize a contract with Kimberly Bridges in a not to exceed amount of $10,000 for digitization of veterans' files and any additional office support needed with funds from Veterans Affairs.
Gary, would you amend your motion for that?
Well, that's the one I made.
That's what you made.
That's what he made.
Do we-
Your support, Stan?
Yeah, exactly, yes.
Just as long as we got it cleared up.
Let's open it back up again. Rhonda, is there anything you want to say?
Is it necessary to have it clear that this arrangement terminates at the end of the project? Or is that assumed?
I think the dollar amount forces that.
Forces an end time? Okay.
Good question, though. Anything else?
Has anybody else ever done digitization before? I did this for the Park Service, and if we were to say 4 months, we meant 4 years. Because when you get in there and actually start doing it, and I don't know what kind of hardware you have to do this, those sometimes are contracted. Sometimes those break down and then they have to wait a month before to get the machine replaced. So 4 months is being very, very aggressive in my humble opinion. But I understand we budget at the end of the, our fiscal
So
year.
you're gonna come back and revisit it in 4
Yeah,
days.
I know, but I mean, I would only ask that after 4 months, maybe you could give us a really good guesstimate on, okay, we've done this much of our volume. Didn't really get where we need to go. We're gonna need another 6 to 10 months, whatever the number is, based on the progress that we're working on, the issues that you came across while you're trying to scan everything in, hardware, software, whatever it may be. And then maybe just come back with a really good idea. Okay, we got 10% done in 4 months. We still got 90% to go. Let's do the math. And this is what we think it'll take to finish the
So
project.
would you like an update in, say, early September? Something like
I
that?
think we'll get an update during the budgeting process for
Yeah.
the next cycle.
Okay.
I think that's, what the intention is to have it included.
You're gonna see where the progress is. Then we have been doing this throughout the county
Okay.
to modernize our practices. And like yourself, I've been through this. There will be things that you didn't expect. You know, just trying to get stuff in order sometimes can be a bit of a headache, but
Any idea what capacity of the past claims are obsolete at this point, or deceased veterans? I know when I came many years ago and the two providers or the two caseworkers were showing us multiple file cabinets full of claims that nothing had ever happened to. They got sent off, but they were still, the copy was still sitting in. Well, those folks are long gone now, and there's no reason to be digitizing something for somebody that's passed.
Well, that's something we're gonna have to, when we go in, we'll have to look and see if there's an obit, because sometimes the families never reach out to us.
Yep.
The vets
I
come to see it.
totally understand.
I suspect there's a retention period for some
I was
of these
just gonna
files,
say, you have to
even
keep
after
them.
somebody's passed away.
Yep,
So,
I believe it's 10 years.
yeah, and I think that's what you're asking.
exactly.
Can we purge instead of digitizing things that are beyond retention period?
Mhm.
In fact, it's been my experience. Don't hang on to anything you don't have to.
Mhm.
Well, the ones that I know that where the veteran has passed, those have already been pulled and they've already been put into boxes.
Okay.
So those won't be scanned.
Yeah, we don't want to micromanage this project for you, okay? We've got motion with support. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yep.
Roloff.
Yep.
Sauer,
Yes.
Trigg,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much. Guys, have a good day.
Thank you. You as well.
So the next item on your agenda is the support of a 2% tribal allocation grant for Housing North. Housing North did apply for the last round of funding and was not awarded funding. And so the request is to apply for funding again to continue to support housing efforts here in Benzie County. Is there any questions or?
Is there a representative here?
Yep.
Would you like to speak to this? Since you've taken the time to be here?
Thank you. I'm Tracy Davis with Housing North. And our request for the tribal 2% application is for $15,000, which would enable a staff member to work about 20 hours per week throughout Benzie County. So currently right now, we are utilizing MISHDA's regional partnership grant, and we're allocated about 2 or 3 hours per month. So this would extend that greatly. And I'm assuming you have the application in front, which lists out the things that we would be looking to do, which goes from aligning planning and zoning. So once you have the master plan, making sure that your zoning is aligned with that, utilizing Michigan MAP's zoning toolkit, housing checklist, best practices for housing, utilizing the zoning atlas, which now is available in your community. And a zoning atlas is a digital online platform that's very user-friendly, and it helps us identify property that with your current zoning regulations and what that property can be used for. So helping develop a plan across your county for the types of housing you want to prioritize. And this is all based on what you, your local stakeholders, the community itself wants, not what Housing North would want. We also look to share a lot of resources, build capacity by providing technical assistance, and that really is very open-ended. So I'm housing ready staff that works in the communities and have done everything from writing grants for local units of government, being a third-party administrator for MISHDA's CBDG grant, to helping develop ordinances, to writing RFPs for agencies, to working with developers and units of government to help develop incentive packages. So that technical assistance piece is very broad based on the needs of your community. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I would hope that you'd support. Go ahead.
I do have a question. So I'm looking at, on the application, question number 13, it says impact of gaming on local programs. And the example here is increase in student population resulting in increased tribal employment or increase in emergency services to casino patrons. And the answer to number 13 is there really shouldn't be an impact on gaming. Increased housing in the county will have an impact on employees in the county, and an increase in housing will increase the student population. And so I can't help but think if I'm sitting on that gaming or that committee
Mhm.
and, this is all about gaming, is there something about having this that would impact gaming so that we have a better opportunity on the application? That's my thought.
I mean, I can adjust this based on input from the committee. And we were looking at it, I think, from housing negatively impacting gaming, that would not change. What I would say is if you have more employees, then you're able to provide more services in terms of gaming, which then could bring people to the area. But I'm not.
So I think what I understand is you understood the question of negatively impacting,
Correct.
whereas I think, Christy, you're reading the question as a positive impact on gaming. I see you read it differently. And I believe that they're wanting, well, what you're saying to me would impact gaming, because if we have
Right.
increased housing and increased students, that's going to have a positive impact potentially on gaming. And because tribal folks don't always live in tribal lands, they might live in other housing as
Absolutely.
well. So I think your statement would be better suited to say it should have an impact on gaming because there's increased housing, because there's increased amount of students. So take out not.
Okay, I can change that.
That was my only comment. I'm
Yes.
trying to think forward
If
to.
you're thinking positive, you were thinking negative.
Absolutely. Yes.
Honest
Okay.
with you, I'd almost take out that first sentence, the program should not
Mhm.
have an impact on gaming, just take that whole sentence out.
Yes.
Yeah, and just say
Because
increased housing in the county will
You
have an
can
impact.
indicate what the impact's gonna be and let them interpret whether it's positive or negative.
Okay, I can do that.
Rhonda?
Yeah, I'm just, have you reached out to any of the villages and townships and to get a temperature if they're desiring these kind of, this kind of assistance? I mean, you know that our zoning is very siloed. And so each township takes care of their own and everybody seems to be working on their master plan and have their separate zoning administrator and things like this. Do you get the sense that they're looking for toolkits? Do you have arrangements pre-designed where villages or townships want you to come in and guide them?
There have been some. I have
Which
worked
ones?
with Alberta in particular. So they just went through their zoning ordinance changes, and I think it's if it hasn't been implemented already, it will be. So I sat a part of that, but I do know they have a new development that's going to be coming. There are a lot of different incentives that are available. I have talked with a number of other, there is Weldon Springs. We supported some of their initiatives that Homestretch was doing. So there are opportunities, I think. But I also think that if they aren't aware of some of the resources in their communities, like the CBD grants or some of the My Neighborhood grants and MISHDA things that are out there, which we can help them utilize, that if you're not aware, you don't know what to ask or where to go. And that was one of the things that I heard in the Colfax area, that they were looking for someone to help with grants. And they just they didn't know where to begin or who to go to. So we would be able to assist with some of that in terms of housing. So everything we do is surrounding housing, not grants for other types of things. And I think this gives us the opportunity to reach some of the townships or villages that we haven't had a chance to do. We focused on people coming to us at this point because we've had such limited staffing time available in Benzie County, and this would give us an opportunity to expand some of that.
Other questions or comments? Katie, this doesn't cause any liability for the county, right? I'd entertain a motion if you'd like to move this forward.
I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners approves the grant application for the Tribal Council allocation of 2% funding on behalf of Housing North, and authorizes the chair to sign.
Support.
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
Len,
You were just a little bit.
you can get the next
Oh,
one.
Len got it?
Len got it, yeah. Questions or comments? Believe we need to do roll call.
Nye,
Yes.
Rolla,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carried. You'll get me the amended.
So the next item on your.
Before you move forward, it's 10:40. Typically, we've taken a break by now. Let's take a 5-minute break if we could. Keep it to about 5 minutes at 10:40.
Wonderful. Thank
A lot.
We're unmuted.
All right, let's call the meeting back to order at 10:45.
I can.
Yeah.
And the next agenda item is for the critical incident mapping project, Ron, or Katie?
Sure. So this is simply a budget amendment to recognize the dollars and to and the expenditures related to the critical incident mapping grant that Rebecca Hubers applied for and was awarded.
Trig will move that the Board of Commissioner authorizes a budget amendment in the amount of $11,196 to recognize revenue and related expenditures in the 101-426-976 Emergency Management Department Fund.
Thank you, Christie. Is there any support?
Carl second.
Okay.
Len?
No, it's Gary, he's got it.
Gary got it again?
And Gary.
All right, there's
Wait.
no additional comments or questions. Roll call, please.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer.
Yes.
Trigg.
Yes.
Janat.
Yes.
Markey.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right.
The next item in your packet is the Code of Ethics and Standards of Conduct policy. This policy was reviewed by staff, legal counsel, and yourself at the last study session and was recommended forward for adoption.
I can't find my.
Yeah.
page.
I'll
It's
read
not
it, that the
bookmarked.
Board of Commissioners adopts the Code of Ethics and Standards of Conduct policy. Second.
Second.
Oh.
You do.
We're gonna give this to Len. Spread the wealth.
No, you've given it to Len every time, Lenny.
That's a
Yeah, but his name's not getting to the minutes.
There you go.
All right. Is there any other comments or questions?
This applies to all employees, even elected officials, or am I a little confused on?
Well-
There's actually a debate about our elected officials employees or not. You want to address that?
Sure. So, yes and no. So elected officials are required to have policies as part of their duty of elected officials. They do not have to enforce county policies, though. However, our elected officials believe in Team Benzie, and we all really operate under the same set of policies. It's been very rare that an elected official doesn't just follow suit with the other policies, but technically, no.
We've had some.
Yeah, that's really gone around here. We really all operate as just one.
Good.
Do the elected officials keep, if they decide not to follow the policies that the county set, do they have a separate set of policies that they keep?
No,
I don't have a separate. set.
none of them have the only ones who would have a separate set of policies is the sheriff's office, and that's because they have additional policies that are specific to the deputies themselves. But no, they don't have separate
Let me
policies.
rephrase the question then. How about if they chose to follow different policies, would they keep?
They would have to, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Katie, the policy references volunteers. Is that something you require volunteers to sign on to this policy, or is it just assume they'll read it and agree to follow it? Is there a protocol for that?
Part of the volunteer waivers also incorporate like policies applicable that Benzie County Commissioners have adopted. So it would by default be on to this. If you felt that it was necessary to have them sign this one specifically, we could do that as well. But these policies will be provided to every single department. There'll be copies of the policy in every department. They already do have policy books and we plug these into it. So those policies would be made available to those volunteers as well.
Give every employee a policy book?
No, so every employee has access to the policies themselves through our shared drive, but then every department has a hard copy book. Yep.
That's how the volunteers would have access to the policies, is that
Yeah.
hard copy book.
Yep. We are, one of our goals is to put all the policies on our website, but that's not something that's been done really in the past. But that is one of the goals, is to have it all on the website pretty soon too.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Sauer.
Yes.
Trigg.
Yes.
Janat.
Yes.
Markey.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye.
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Katie?
The next item in your packet is discussion regarding the Benzonia recycling location. Dave Schaefer is here to kind of be really give you an update as to where things are at. For the community's benefit, we did have to remove the Benzonia recycling bins because of a change to the property where they were sitting. We thought we had an alternate location nailed down. It didn't work out. We're not able to locate them in Joyfield Township while they work through some other things. We have had some discussions with Benzonia Township, and I know that there's a lot of folks just in the community trying to find a spot for these. But for now, there is no spot specifically within Benzonia. Additional bins have been added to some of the other locations to help with the additional recycling. But the ultimate goal is to have a location here in the Benzonia area. Dave, take it away.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, for the benefit of the people that might be online, could you identify yourself and what your role is in this, please?
Yeah, Dave Schaefer, Benzie County Materials Management Department contract.
Thank you.
So that's a good summary. And the search continues. This morning, I spoke with the gentleman. I've identified 2 potential commercial lots. Both initially had interest. One, just this morning, learned that he decided he didn't want to host the site, but there may be another opportunity there. The other, I'm waiting to hear back from. I'm also in communication with Benzonia Township about the potential of utilizing a very small part of Memorial Park. I had met with the township a couple of weeks ago and presented an idea, and it wasn't accepted, but they didn't say no. So I'm still working on that as a potential. Worked with the village of Benzonia, and maybe there's some little potential there, but there's just not a whole lot of space in the land that they have. And that's where we're at, is I'm using mapping tools and people search finders and contacting commercial entities and locations that, I'll then drive around and take a look and see if they're at all suitable, and reaching out. And then when I get a reply, trying to encourage them to, with this community service. We don't have, ideally it would be on municipally, publicly owned property. And there isn't a lot of suitable land that meets that description. The sites are doing okay. It's not sustainable the way it is, especially with the season starting to get busy, and our hauler is really, looking forward to us getting a new site in place, because they've had to increase the amount of pickups, the amount of runs that they're doing, and that isn't inexpensive. So we're also in the last year of our contract with them, so negotiating a new contract. If we don't have a site in place, that could have pretty significant effects on the cost. So this is an ongoing daily effort. I don't have any new news or exciting, yes, we have a solution in place. There was hope, and there still is. Yeah, that's the summary.
Do we know where Joyfield's at in all of this? Because if this starts costing the county money, we're gonna have to cut other recycling services, because we're already maxed out on this budget. We can't withstand any increase.
Yeah, Joyfield, we would need to go through the process. It's a $600 application for an amendment to their zoning ordinance, and it would be a several month process if they chose to approve it.
I think they're having a meeting this month.
So at 2 meetings ago, the zoning board felt that it was not considered permissible use. They do have the ability to massage it into one of the permissible uses, but they felt that there wasn't a close enough identified permissible use that would allow a recycling site. So I have encouraged them to consider that, adding a use, as it's a township that a lot of the residents utilize the system, and at some point in the future, it'd be great to at least have the ability to have that, whether or not they do, to have it so it's an allowable use.
And the commercial entity, Southside Plaza, is still willing to host?
Yes.
So that would make me ask the question, because you've now mentioned this. Have we asked for a variance? We created an appeal process to ask for a variance to their zoning, because that is an avenue.
I have asked if there is any possible way, the reception that I have is the process of the $600 application and going through the amendment of, there was no, I was not given any other, and this is from their zoning administrator. Several conversations and emails.
So I sat on a ZBA once, and there's nothing that prevents you from filing it for an appeal that would have to go to their ZBA. It wouldn't be up for the zoning administrator to roadblock you. I mean, they're certainly going to be asked their opinion, but.
And in conversations with county council, that was not presented or identified as an avenue forward. I didn't ask. I wasn't aware that, so I could ask if there is a path via a variance.
I don't know.
I mean, I think that's a $600 cost she's referencing.
No, the
Is-
$600 is to change their zoning.
There
I
would
don't
be
think
an-
I don't think there's a fee to change zoning. I think it would be a fee to pull the board together for a variance hearing. I mean, I don't think you could just pay an entity to change their zoning.
I could forward the emails.
She made it sound like it was for that.
I believe the wording was to begin an application to begin the process for consideration of an amendment to the zoning.
was.
ordinance.
That
Yeah.
was the, like,
Huh.
They also have the ability to waive the fees as a board.
They do. Well, I'm sure they do. Again, a several month process is where it tends to, I haven't learned anything else. I did ask, I get, a variance. I asked there be a special use permit or something like that. And it all comes back to that same answer. So, we could pursue that, but that would be a several month, that's not ideal. And in the meantime, it's continuing the search of identifying a new
Mhm.
suitable location.
My concern is, Dave, is that in about 2 weeks, what you just described to us as it's palatable, what we're doing right now,
Barely.
it's gonna be, in 2 weeks' time, that's when it all starts to break loose for
Mhm.
10, 12 weeks.
Very much.
And you're gonna have, you're gonna have complaints in Beulah. People will not know not to use Beulah's. All they'll see is they're available, and let's jam it as full as we can.
That's right.
I don't want to keep riding this horse if it's not, doesn't make sense to, but I'd ask about the appeal for a variance. And that
I
be-
will.
On that specific piece of property, at that specific location, you can ask for a variance. And I haven't heard anybody say they've asked for that. They're asking for a change in zoning,
I believe we may have, but I'll have to go through. It's a lot of back and forth, a lot of emails that may have been discussed. Yes.
All right. Any other comments or questions on this subject? As so many things are high priority, this is going to be a higher priority in about 2 weeks.
Very much so. I'm doing everything I can, asking everyone I know, and again, to you as well and anybody listening, if you hear of anything that may be a potential, please share.
Yeah, well, I think we'll be curious to know what happens in Benzonia, because what I've heard you say is they'll consider it no action taken at this time.
That's right. And I drafted an email this morning, putting together a similar but different and smaller site idea that might resonate. And I will follow up with information as that develops.
I believe I gleaned from one of the last meetings I attended that it was the original site location had been surveyed in the past, and it very likely was on Case and Watson's property. I remember seeing those stakes, and it literally ran down the middle of the 2-track along the side of the township building in Benzonia. So that location behind it very well could be privately owned.
Correct. So the plan and my idea, unless, if someone has another one, I'm all ears, is first to have the board, the township board be okay, give the okay, and then approach Case and Watson for an easement. So that ingress egress that is partially Case and Watson, partially the township, if they would grant an easement, I believe they would, as it's an area that is not used, and I don't see them using it in the future when I look around at the land and how it's structured there. But those were the steps, is first see if the township is okay, and then I believe the easement shouldn't be too big of a challenge.
I attended the meeting where you spoke to the township. You had mentioned something about a 10-foot fence.
Right.
Where is that in the budget?
I would probably have to fund that.
You would fund that?
Yeah. We don't have it in the budget.
Like personally?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be careful
The
about
amount
that
of stuff
because,
that Davis personally did is,
because you could do that for one site, there's gonna be other sites gonna be asking for it too because of the debris that gets blown around. I've heard the Homestead site several times comment about how trash gets blown around and it's back to the park area and stuff.
So that's what's happening right now and with this site and the work that's going to happen is we're setting a precedent that hasn't been set before. That's probably going to be the case going forward until we figure out how to
take care of this.
this and the fund situation of the department, the challenge of the fund.
You would think that with 40% of the county not on the tax rolls, we'd have plenty of government property to put these bins on. So
Yeah.
just saying.
Park Service.
I mean, with the state or federal government, do we have any properties around there for that? I mean,
Not in that area.
Not in Benzonia, no.
I see,
Did talk with the tribe.
I was gonna say, I see the tribe.
I've sent some emails. I haven't got replies. I did stop in. The area that I thought may be suitable is one that they're looking to develop. Again, that was just on the local level. I've not yet received replies from people that would have, more authority for that decision, but.
That was another proposal at that township meeting, was the new township building in Benzonia is a deep parcel. And it backs up to tribal property, correct?
Correct.
And it was proposed to put them, but you would have needed permission to access from
From the tribe, and I also, this also, this morning, I talked to a neighbor that has commercial property south of the Benzonia Township about the potential of an easement to get back behind. I haven't heard back yet. So all of these things are being looked at. That would be a very expensive development.
Would it?
Yeah, yeah.
Other comments or questions on this subject? We'll be talking about it again.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
So the next item in your packet is simply to officially accept the resignation from Bridget Hassig from the Maples Board.
I'd entertain a motion.
Trigg moves that the Board of Commissioners accept the resignation of Bridget Hassig on the Maples Board.
9 seconds.
There's no comments or questions. Can we do that in voice or is that? Roll call, please.
Trigg,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
motion carried.
Fund balance recommendation.
The next item in your packet is the fund balance recommendation. At the last study session, this board discussed the county's current fund balance and how to utilize those dollars to come within line of the 25% policy requirement. In your packet, I did try to provide a table based on the discussion that we had at the last study session. So hopefully I heard your discussion correctly. If this looks acceptable to the Board of Commissioners, there's a recommendation which would approve what's in the memo related to how to utilize the fund balance, which does specifically spell out emergency preparedness, planned capital projects, community projects, animal control, and making a payment to MERS defined benefit.
We've had a lot of discussion on this. Is there any questions or comments? Katie, then I would have one anyway. Regarding the MERS, do we need to specifically outline each one of those classes?
You don't need to in the motion because I have my notes. So you don't need to, but if you would feel more comfortable, you could.
Just as long as we understood that in the past, it kind of got lumped into, we want to make sure each one of those classes are being funded.
Correct. Yep. And Leslie and I are fully aware of that. And the notes are on my desk, apparently, not in this book today. But yes, to bring the lower ones up to the 60 was the idea.
It's kind of in this thing here.
It kind of is, yeah.
Targeted groups.
Right. So yeah, I put the note in there, targeting groups under mandatory 60% funded level.
And this is really an action we probably should have taken some time ago. This is kind of just cleaning things up, quite frankly.
So Nye moves that the Board of Commissioners approve the formal commitment of fund balance allocations as outlined in the May 19th, 2026 memorandum from the county administration in compliance with GASB 54 accounting criteria, honors donor and project constraints, and aligns current financial resources with planned infrastructure and operational mandates.
Markey will support.
I'll open it up one more time to questions or comments. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Trigg,
Yes.
motion carried.
Katie, when will these entries be made? Will it be before the end of the month or?
Based on my calendar for the rest of this week, probably next week.
Okay.
Because I am jam-packed with budget meetings the rest of the week. So.
Okay. I asked the question only so that if
Yeah.
the public has any questions, we have it available.
It'll probably be next week because Kelly has to move the cash so that we can make the payment. Kelly is out for the next couple of days as well. So it'll definitely be next week.
And do you have to bring back in amendments on every one of those?
Nope, that action's gonna allow me to move the dollars according to the table.
Very good. Let's move on to the next item.
So the final item in your packet was a last minute request from Brooke Pop of the Frankfurt City County Airport Authority. She is requesting also a 2% tribal allocation grant to support the authority. She is not here, but I did include the application in your packet so that you could read that specifically for the airport authority. They did apply before on their own accord, but this time they're asking to apply under us, and I think that's for, it marks better if it's under us.
So how did they apply the last time? Through Frankfurt?
Through themselves. So technically, these 2% allocation dollars are for taxing authorities, and they're their own taxing authority. But it does, I believe, score higher coming from Benzie County, is my understanding.
Trig moves that the Board of Commissioner approves the grant application for Tribal Council allocation of 2% funding on behalf of the Frankfurt City County Airport Authority and authorizes the chair to sign.
I'll support.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yep.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
motion carried.
Committee appointments. We just accepted the resignation of Bridget. That would leave a 2-member board. What I'd like to do is form a interview committee now so that I know this has been posted, right, Katie? I know that we'll have at least one application coming in. So I'd like to be able to act on this as quickly as we can. Not healthy to have a 2-person board. We need 3 commissioners to serve on that. I will volunteer as one. Could I get 2 other? Gary?
I can do it.
And Len?
Yeah, you need somebody, especially with one of those members that has a tendency to have a hard time getting there.
Right. We don't need a motion on that. We just, that's just an appointment. All right, and we will assemble as soon as we get another week or so for applications. But I know you may have already gotten one in.
Maybe.
Well, I know,
I know
you did,
one's
but it was
coming.
over the weekend, so you wouldn't have
Okay.
seen it.
Good.
All right, commissioner reports. Bob, we'll start with you today, please.
Past week has been quite busy. Prior to that, area agency on aging, their biggest struggles is enough healthcare workers in the field to take care of the people that they're taking care of. They're getting their work done, but it's a struggle on some of the staff for the amount of people that they deal with. Other than that, Memorial Day weekend was a great venue yesterday. Enjoyed doing it. Art Eisner from the Vet Center, Traverse City, gave a very nice presentation. Everybody else involved, thank you for being there. I personally appreciate you're being there, you being part of this. And it's a pleasure for me to be part of it. So thank you all.
Questions or comments for Bob?
I do have one other comment. I attended the Matt McKinley award ceremony at Benzie Central High School last week. I'm not saying this to be ornery, but I was the only commissioner there, as well as it was the sheriff and his family and no other representatives other than school people. I know it wasn't publicized. Let's come and watch McKinley get this national award. But I think it was very important, and he was appreciative that I was there. Had a nice short chat with him. His family was there. I looked at it as something quite prestigious that he can hang on the wall and be very proud of what he's accomplished. So
Thank you for representing us, Bob.
my pleasure.
I have a question. Senior Resources with Bridget Hessig, that's what you're talking, Area on Agency on Aging. Does that represent Senior
that's-
Resources at all?
That's Traverse City.
Oh, it's Traverse City. Okay. All right. Who is our Senior Resources representative? Is it Tim?
We don't have one anymore.
Oh, we don't have one.
Oh,
They
okay.
report to us quarterly.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you. I needed that clarification.
It used to be me.
It was you, yeah.
Oh, next year you can do whatever you want.
Uh-huh.
Rhonda?
Sure, I've attended a few meetings. I had agenda review. I was at the Memorial Day event. It was wonderful. It was so well attended. I can't remember the last time either Memorial Day or Veterans Day had good weather. And boy, does that change attendance. And I did want to know,
Echo's a little better crowd with Pam and Drew though.
yeah, and those ladies who sing
Yes.
Voices of Angels, let me
Yep.
tell you, they really did a nice job.
I
So.
had to, it cost me a little bit to get them there.
Yeah. I attended the Village of Beulah meeting and they had some pump station damage to the tune of $200,000. In the room were the mop heads that they retrieved from the pump station sitting in a container like this. This isn't something that they think you could feasibly flush down a toilet. This is most likely being unfortunately done deliberately. They have located a section of the village where they think the mop heads are being put in the system. And they are going to send out letters. There is going to be an effort to figure out how this is being done and who is doing it. Very disappointing. The president shared that they presented Eagle with the idea that their upgraded septic or sewer system needs to be expandable based on the draft sewer feasibility study findings. Their president, Jerry Vanderperry, was on the call with Wade Trim when the draft feasibility study was discussed, and they are the #1 option for getting the corridor down 31 served as a first phase. And it sounded like Eagle was a little bit receptive to that. So that's down the road. You know, the village does have to finish what they're doing first, but the seed has been planted that it would be nice if this were a regional operation, or at least expandable to a certain degree. The village accepted Arcadia Marine's sediment basin draining bid of $74,000. This is the bid that they share with the township. They approved an ordinance 26004 for the reduction of trustees from 6 to 4. They did this before. They tried to do this and a citizen formed a referendum and it was put to a vote and it was voted down. The reason they're doing it again is that the board feels that the language on the ballot was confusing. Folks are speaking about having been in favor of it, but the vote they cast because of the verbiage went the other way. They thought they were supporting the reduction and they weren't. So the board is going through the process again for this reduction. They held one public hearing at that meeting. I believe a second public hearing was held about an hour ago. And they are moving forward to try and get this reduction in place. This does open the door for folks to do the same thing that was done last time. But they are moving forward. It's very hard to fill these seats in small villages. Annie can attest to that. Music in the Streets is going to be another season of that. There will be 7 Thursdays, the first one starting July 2nd. I attended Benzonia Township. We covered the recycling spot and the property ownership there. They were getting some FOIA requests and a motion was made and approved on a 2-to-1 vote for a $30 an hour wage above salary for the clerk to address FOIA requests. Some of the comments on that were, well, then these FOIA requests are going to be filled outside of working hours, correct? It did cause quite a bit of questions from the folks in the audience. And then there was proposed retroactive pay for the supervisor and folks doing some zoning responsibilities, which was not seconded. The conversation kind of veered towards, has retroactive pay been researched? And so I don't know if that'll be revisited at their next meeting. They approved, they found out their Anavon media bid was brought down to $40,000. So that will cover this kind of stuff in their meeting room so people can actually hear. It's very hard to hear in that new building, in that room. Folks complain every meeting that they cannot hear what's being said. Central Wellness meeting, we selected officers. Karen Goodman was selected as chair. Don Tanner was the vice chair. I remain the secretary. Tim Markey was selected as our new NMRE rep. Congratulations. Municipal Solutions was selected as the search firm for CHIPS replacement. They had my vote. They represented themselves very well, and it sounds like this process is going to be very thorough. And then we approved a 3% increase to the pay schedule. I attended the MAC Health and Human Services meeting. The platform was updated and approved. We had a legislative update. And then I also attended the EDC meeting on Friday, where there was a professor of economics at MSU. I forgot to write down his name. I'm sure Art will cover that. Talked about Benzie's population is steadily increasing, which puts a strain on the services that we need to provide, was my follow-up thought with that. He talked about shrinking places tend not to shrink their budgets. We are not one of those. One of the things I wrote down and just noted here is that by the end of the century, China's population is expected to decline by half. I thought that was interesting, so I wrote it down and brought it to share with you. And that's where I'll end my report.
His name was Mark Skidmore.
Oh, thank you.
But that's all right.
Lynn?
All right, we'll start off with Colfax Township meeting. That was interesting. Having gone to a lot of these, it's usually 3 or 4 of us in the crowd kind of watching things. There were well over 25 people the other day, standing room only. They had to grab chairs out of the back office for some of us just to find a seat. But I want to say that's all because Katie was there, doing her presentation. That's why I suspect there was another reason too, but no, she did a great job out there. I didn't see a whole lot of pushback from the crowd. They took her. The only thing I thought was kind of goofy was that Headley display that they had on the side of the area there. There was a big, huge sign declaring all the virtues of the Headley Amendment. I was like, wow.
So they've had it on their wall for a while. They actually have the Headley Amendment printed out in like the whole huge poster, and they leave it on their wall.
Yeah.
I was like, see right there, it says.
Yeah, so it's a nice prop to have anyway. Things started getting fun when the blight discussion. There were three main groups that presented. Katie was the first one. Then there's somebody from the JPC temporary moratorium, but then Miss Garlinghouse brought up the blight thing, and it got loud to the point where the board's telling people to shut up loudly. And I thought, this is fun, So that was spirited. I'll put it that way. That's the best way to put it. In the end, we moved on to other things, but for about 15, 20 minutes, that was the loud conversation going on. So more to come on that. I don't know what's going to happen. There was some discussion for the board about the ordinance and how it didn't have a whole lot of teeth, and who has the authority to write tickets. Even the board was debating that. I'm like, okay, we have some things to sort out here before we do this in public. We probably should be airing our dirty laundry in that manner. But in the end, it is what it is. The fun part also was that Up North Live was sitting there, videoing majority of the meeting. Luckily, I guess they stopped before the commissioner report. I had to get up and talk, but they walked out. I was like, oh, I'm not worthy of being said. Okay, that's
They
fine.
didn't even put me on the news, and I know they were watching me.
Yeah, they filmed your
It wasn't
entire
even that
presentation.
cool.
Absolutely did. Yeah. So
They should have aired it.
I know, but no, they only aired the blight conversation. They didn't
Yeah.
air me.
they showed the dumping grounds and some of the other things in their videos. There's 2 or 3 videos floating around right now that they sent out. You can find them on YouTube. Next up, the 9/11 dispatch meeting. The main thing out of that, we had a couple of minor things we discussed, but the big thing that came out of that was post Corey, you know, and then the sheriff asked for an interview panel for his eventual replacement. I volunteered to be on that as well. At the time, we only had one applicant. The decision was made, let's give it another week or two to see if we get a couple more. So, and more to come on that once we find out what the situation is. Like Rhonda mentioned, the Benzie EDC met with MSU's Dr. Mark Skidmore, and a couple things I found out in his discussion. I was writing all kinds of notes. A lot of data points he put out about Benzie County and how we are, you know, have a slight growth in our population, which was pretty cool as compared to sounds like Manistee back in like the year 2000, 1990, 2000 had a huge drop. But a couple words he said I thought they were interesting. I think he was talking about Benzie in general. He might have been talking about counties in general, but he said costs outpacing the revenue. I put that down and said, hey, there's a one-liner we can use for Katie, because that's absolutely what's going on. Yeah, the costs are outpacing. And then something that we already knew, but I'm glad that somebody outside our organization brought up was that our broadband is so key to this county, and how, you know, that's really, if we ever want to bring in this new class of worker that works from home 99% of the time, you got to have that solid broadband. So we know that. Thank you for backing us up on that. So thank you. Everything else was a lot of nice academia, which I thought was interesting. Joined by the commissioners, Benzie Republican meeting the other day. That was another interesting discussion that went on when it came to the Headley. More people can comment on that if they want. I just thought it was interesting to see what amounted to some pushback. Got AP approvals on Thursday, buildings and grounds. Look forward to that meeting on Friday. And our Benzie Leelanau Board of Health meeting was canceled for tomorrow. That's all I have.
Questions for Len? Gary?
You got a written report there, so there you go. Lane Township did appoint a new trustee, Peter Turner. I don't know if you know him. Anyway, but they have a short time before they have to either run or get. So I'm trying to, because we did have 3 people apply. Kind of surprised me, but.
And that person will have to run on the November election. Is that right?
That's what I
They
understand.
could run as a write-in if they want to run as with a political party.
Huh?
A Republican or Democrat, they can do a write-in in August. There's a deadline for that. Or they could run in with the no party affiliation in November.
I'm gonna send anybody that's gonna do it, talk to her. Oh, anyway, yeah. It's just one of those things they had no time to fill it, I think. Thankfully, Katie was there to explain that, and that made a lot of difference. Cause I thought they were just gonna let it go. Parks and Rec, it looks like Walton's gonna start in the fall. The byway, we did have the M22 byway thing here. We didn't have a real huge attendance, but we did have some online too, so I thought it was kind of nice to meet some of these folks. You remember Barb Conley? She's the village president or something in Northport. And so that's quite a trip for her. And the supervisor from Elmwood Township, he's the chair of that. Jeff Shaw. Oh, it's kind of interesting. Good to see him. I know both of them and some of the other folks, so it was nice. Benzie Bus, and I have to say this because I was told to. They've decided not to live stream the meetings. A board decision, because I don't know if it gains a whole lot. It's nice, but you can watch it the next day. So we did have somebody come back, put it in the comments, so watch it, you'll see. Village of Alberta received a grant for meter replacement. $191,000, so
Pretty good meter.
It's the way I understand it. Now, if I got the right number, you know.
Water meters?
Okay, yeah. Got a bunch of old meters that don't read correctly and they're always complaining that sewer bill's higher than the water bill and depends on what's flooding into the system. Who knows? They also said that the charrette or whatever they call it, they're not gonna be doing that till later this fall. A lot of them were hoping they'd be a lot quicker, so see where that goes. And then I attended the EDC. I thought that was good, really did. He brought up a lot of points. Every time you do something, every reaction has an opposite reaction, so it's stuff to think about when you do things, so that was pretty good. Oh, Village of Alberta, we'll go back one more. The gal that's been running the life-saving station, Christine Mills, Josh's wife, she walked out. She's done. She's been doing it for 10 or 11 years. She really does a good job, but there's a little friction there, I guess, so. Other than that, any questions?
I appreciated your point about having to run so soon. I think there's confusion. I know I had confusion about when a trustee fills the seat of of one who left, there's a assumption out there that they fill that full term. And I think people run with that. I think if Katie hadn't been at that meeting, they would have left that seat vacant. Is there any way that,
Yeah.
They would have.
right? Yeah. Where do the townships and villages go for clarification on that issue, Tammy?
I had spoken with the township clerk and the township already.
Do it, eh?
Prior to that.
Yeah, even the other ones though, I hear them making that statement.
Yeah.
If we seat somebody, they fill the term of the person they replace, and it's till the next.
Right, it depends on when that seat becomes vacant.
Mhm.
If it's after the filing deadline, then whoever they appoint will fill it for the rest of that term. But because this one was a few days before the filing deadline, it all hinges on when that vacancy happened.
Very good. Okay.
The other thing that I would encourage, and I'm not sure how many of our townships are very involved, they really need to get like heavily involved in the MTA. So when I was sitting in Blaine Township's meeting and helping them because they wanted to just leave it open, I went right to the MTA's website and bam, right there was a 12-page book on how to fill a vacancy. So I would encourage your townships. I know it costs a little money, but it is a great resource for them. They really need to be involved in the MTA.
Okay.
Well, Blaine is involved.
Okay, then I got nothing on that.
They just don't read the stuff, I guess.
Other questions or comments for Gary's report? Gary, as always, thanks for submitting in advance. Christie?
So I went to Crystal Lake Township and they one interesting note on them, I haven't been able to write up my report yet, so that's why I'm shuffling papers. Is that they are putting their new contract together for their assessor. And one thing is that the assessor wanted to leave out a portion when it comes to land divisions. And so there is that bill, I think, about dividing things up. And they think that it has something to do with that. And so the assessor, their assessor, didn't want that as part of her duties. So I thought that was interesting. And it's my understanding the health department, right, doesn't support that land division bill either, because that's problematic for well and septic and.
They were gonna use smaller lots and it was looking for places that had water and sewer, so.
Yeah.
The state really needs to stay out of this. That's my opinion.
1,500 square foot lot size.
Very small, real close,
Yes.
5 foot setbacks or something.
Wow.
Yes. Well, I thought that was interesting. So That's why, I bring that up. So yeah, that was an interesting tidbit. City of Frankfurt. What was I gonna say about this one? They are, the, they didn't move on it, but they just kind of talked about it. So the Mineral Springs fountain, that's quite the monument in Frankfurt. Anyway, as you know, it's been kind of in disrepair for about a year now. And it's been kind of cordoned off, and they've been talking about what to do with it. And what they are thinking is doing a Cor-Ten metal surround so that it won't, or Cor-Ten metal surround. I don't know what that is. I haven't researched it yet, but apparently it's supposed to, I think it's cork on the inside. I don't know. But anyway, it's supposed to help prevent some of that rusting and degradation that happens around that. So
Corrugated steel.
no, well, I don't know. They called it a Cor-Ten metal surround, and it looks like, I don't think that's corrugated. Yeah. But anyway, I'd never heard of it. I thought it was interesting. So, that was their big thing. Another thing is, their Marina Watersway grant. They are concerned about this. They're, going a little bit over budget on it, and, they're looking at 2 ways to maybe, fund that. So, kind of one would be either doing it in 3 phases. And so, committing a dollar amount, for each year, or to bond it. And it sounds like they're heading toward the bonding situation, because then they think that they can guarantee that if there are any other kind of overages, that they will be able to, they'll be able to, cover that. Anyway, that was interesting. I also had a call with a constituent who is related to Danielle Taub from Make Food Not Waste. And so I kind of talked with them a little bit, and we were talking about materials management. And one thing that really stood out to me from that conversation is how in a rural setting such as ours, that culture change and education is going to be the really big thing that is going to make an impact because of our small size. And again, kind of what we talk about is, there isn't a lot of money to do a lot of things, and materials management in a rural setting, doing what we do, doing it the best way isn't cost effective for us. And so culture shifting and how we do things is probably going to be more impactful to us than anything that we can put toward money spend. And that was helpful for me. Anyway, I also went to the EDC special meeting. I too was surprised by Manistee County, the big dip with them. I was also kind of surprised too when he said that those with a shrinking population don't tend to shrink their budgets. And I can kind of see why that doesn't happen. You still need to provide the services that you have. But right or wrong, I thought that was really interesting too. And I did like hearing that Benzie County, as far as population goes, hasn't been a steep incline or a steep decline. It's been a steady increase. And he kind of talked about how that's actually really good for us as a county, because then we can adjust kind of incrementally and kind of work with that small population increase at a time. But then I was thinking, but But we also have within our year sharp inclines and sharp declines. And it didn't really talk about, and I didn't ask the question, although I should have, is how do we manage that within a year? Sharp inclines and sharp declines, but I didn't ask that question. And that's where I am. I should have.
Well, you were sucking up to his dad. I thought maybe you got a chance to.
Friend, I know a friend. So yes,
nice guy.
the speaker brought his dad, who is from Manistee. And so, yes, we conversed. We conversed.
The only comment I'd make about your last observation about sharp inclines and declines is he was referring to population. You're talking about influx of tourism,
Yeah.
which is quite different. Still have to have services available,
Mhm.
but that's not a sustainable growth.
No.
Tim? Or is there any other questions for Christie? Tim?
Central Wellness Board meeting, Commissioner Nye covered that rather well with Chip. Well, I participated in the interviews for the new replace our IT guy. The MAC Judiciary and Public Safety meeting was dedicated to doing our platform review, because our previous meeting, we didn't have quorum. We did this time, yay. We had a rather large discussion around dispatch funding. Because dispatch falls underneath the public safety aspect of it. And Benzie's not alone with being one of the counties that the current model doesn't work for. And so we actually changed the platform. Like one of the things was the ability to change the surcharge limit. Right now, we're limited at $3 per line. That was talked about. I did ask for the edited platform that we did approve, but I have not received it. I attended the Headley discussion at the Republican Party. That was a lot of fun, as you guys indicated. Networks Northwest Finance Committee. We went over the financial reports. And we reviewed the audits of Networks Northwest and Northwest Michigan Works. Both of those audits came in rather well. They didn't have any issues at all. I always forget the term that they use that presents fairly. Did accounts payable. Homestead Township Board's rescheduled board meeting. They had to cancel due to lack of quorum. Had to do someone being out of town and family emergency. Interesting, no public was in attendance for this rescheduled meeting. Normally they have 2 or 3 people in the audience every meeting. They're working on updating their capital improvement plan, which is good that they're working. And I also was here for that EDC presentation that Mark Skidmore gave. A lot of interesting information. You guys regard.
Questions for Tim?
Were you the one that asked the question about age, or was it somebody else? Cause, and he took something back. Was he, okay. Cause I thought that was fascinating too, looking at our demographics.
You're right. I mean, he didn't include age in his Benzie County's growth.
Right.
He just said Benzie County's growing. I said, yeah, but our population is greatly aging. And he took notes on that. Whether he's gonna give us feedback or not, I have no idea.
As we've commented on that, it's our growth is all 60 plus age, which changes how we have to look at services.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Tim? Tammy, we never give you a chance to speak. Anything you'd like to say?
We're just getting around with elections. We have the August and we have the November, just getting the ballots are out to the programmer right now and be shooting with that. And one comment to your question, Rhonda, where, individuals can go. The clerks are they can get a hold of the Bureau of Elections if they can't get a hold of me. Most of our local clerks are with MTA. And they have no issue with contacting me or Kim or anything, but they can always shoot a question off Bureau of Elections too. Otherwise, that's about it.
Some things that I want to highlight. I want to talk a moment about the attendance of the commissioners, both at the presentation to the Republican Party regarding the upcoming ballot request, as well as the EDC meeting. I know there's a lot of demand on your times. You attend a lot of meetings. You can't be at everything. I really appreciate the fact that the majority of you took time to be at both of those meetings. With respect to the EDC, what I was hoping, and it sounded like we got out of it, is a continued reinforcement of the importance to economic development and the health of a community. And that's really what we were trying to drive home. It's not an investment this county's really made until recently with this commissioners. I know you've made a 5-year commitment on it. I'm hopeful that the results are enough that you see that this is an important thing to continue funding, because any community that is healthy also has an effective economic development activity. With respect to the presentation that Katie made, it was kind of brutal. I appreciate those of you that spoke up and offered your input on it. I think that was important that people heard from you. What I took away from that is there are things that we had to learn about how we presented. And Rhonda, Katie, and I spoke about this last week and have kind of adjusted a couple of things. Katie shared with us today. Let's talk about what do we spend money on and why we see these increases. And what resonated with me was that it's not the same as sitting at your kitchen table making budget decisions or expense decisions every year. It's quite different, but how do I convey that to you? Because it's somewhat emotional also. At the Northern Michigan Counties Association, of which I'm the vice president, we've been talking periodically about regionalization. I know that some folks are concerned about that discussion, but I think long-term there's opportunities. And just here's a very quick hit. Grant writing, which we've talked about here before. I learned at that meeting that there are communities out there already that are sharing a grant writing organization. I didn't know that was available. Katie, in fact, I think I gave you that information. So it's things as non-threatening as that to bigger opportunities that we aren't going to talk about them today, but I think they have to be part of your strategic planning. We have to be looking for efficiencies, using technology to get to those efficiencies. And the last piece I'll comment on is in your packet this week, I included an article in the most recent MAC magazine. It talked about the distinction and the role of county governance versus township. And I did that as much for the public as I did it for your benefit, because I assume a number of you read that magazine already anyway. But I thought the timing was it was useful for us. And that's all I have. If there's no questions, Katie, we'll move to your report.
I just have a couple of things. Last week I was out a good part of the week at the MACO conference. That's the county administrators. And we were at Crystal Mountain. We did have NACO there, and we went over a whole bunch of things really specifically around taxes and property taxes, sales taxes, and those sorts of things, and kind of what other states are doing and the discussions that they're having in Michigan related to taxes. And so I did pick up 3 handouts, and I do think I'll be able to find the PDFs of these. But this is some really good information that I think would help all of you also in your discussions around the community about the general operating millage, and specifically this one related to county government taxes and revenue, and how Michigan really is a lot like many other states. We're not that different. And so, which is probably not something you hear on the mainstream media. It makes it sound like we're very different, but we're really not different from the other states. So I'll share that information with you because I think it'll just help all of you better understand taxes in general and revenues that come into the counties. This one of these also talks about our workforce too, and what the public workforce looks like by state and how much it's supporting the communities that we're in. So that was really good information. we had about 53 county administrators there of our 83 counties. So that was really great to network with those folks. We talked a lot about cybersecurity, again, about property taxes and things like that. And then right after that, the conclusion of that, I did do a podcast interview with Lead for America. So Lead for America is a lot like the AmeriCorps group out there, but a little different. And they're the ones helping to work through some of this broadband digital equity piece that we're working on with Mr. Milkey. And so I did do a podcast interview with them on Friday too, representing Benzie County and the good work we've done in the broadband space, and then just the good work we're doing in an economic development space as well. And when they're done with that, they'll send that to me, but that'll be a national thing spread out there. And then I'm also going to be doing a podcast with Seth Winterhalter. Seth Winterhalter has a national podcast, and he focuses on local government and local officials and how county governments and city governments and so forth are interacting with their communities and providing services to the community. So I'll share that podcast too if anyone wants to listen to me ramble for 90 minutes on a podcast. The other thing I wanted to quickly talk about is animal control. So animal control, Joe Duncan will be starting on June 1st. So we're super excited to have him coming on board up there. We do have the new design for the website done. So it's a matter of building all the pages now. So the design is a little bit of a different design from the rest of our website. Greens versus the blues, and just kind of more of a lots of pictures, more interactive look specifically for animal control. And another added service is we have worked through the ability to post animals on Pet Finder. So that has been a request in the past from community members about why don't we put animals on Pet Finder? Well, we are now. We were able to work through that process. That takes veterinary approval and various approvals from their board levels to get approval. And so we are listing our animals on Pet Finder now. So that's another great resource to the community. The other thing I want to notate too, in response to the discussion this morning from the public comment about animals not being, given daily interaction time and things like that. When a dog is in a 10-day quarantine, we cannot allow it to play with a volunteer and to go for walks. We're not allowed to do that. When a dog is in quarantine under state law, that is a 10-day quarantine that we must monitor. They have to stay on our property, and they can't be interacting with a great deal of people. There is a couple of dogs up there right now that were in quarantine. That's why they couldn't be being interacted with by volunteers. One volunteer ratted themselves out to another person and indicated that they're feeding treats to that dog through the kennel fence outside behind the building. Again, we cannot have dogs that are in quarantine interacting with a large group of people. That's why they're in quarantine, because they need to be monitored by shelter staff for that 10-day required period. Also, when it comes to vaccinations, so I've been sending the staff to a great deal of training, and they're learning a tremendous amount of information from other shelters and other animal control staff from around the state. The reason that folks cannot interact with, say, a kitten who has not had vaccinations is because people carry diseases. People carry many diseases, and they don't even know it on their hands, on their feet, and therefore, if we don't have an animal, if we're not sure of an animal's vaccination history, we can't let them interact with just anybody, because you could very well give a dog parvo and not even know it if they don't have a parvo vaccine. And so that's why we're being very careful about what animals are being interacted with volunteers, because unless their vaccination statuses are brought to where they need to be, we can't guarantee their safety, and we can't guarantee the person's safety because of those different rules. I didn't know that you as a human could carry parvo on your hands and you not even know it. And so those are some of the reasons why some of these animals are limited in their time with people outside of shelter staff, is because until we have all those vaccinations in place, until the vet has cleared them, we can't just have them interacting with everybody for the chance of somebody getting sick. If one dog gets sick, the whole shelter is shut down for a mandatory 14 days. Nobody can come on the property. We have to clean the property, and we have to figure out all of those animals, put them in a heavier quarantine that lasts longer amount of time. So we're trying to protect the animals that are in our possession. There was a kitten that passed away. We had a cat come in with some older kittens. the older kittens weaned off rather quickly. Someone brought in a stray kitten that weighed 3 ounces. And we tried to save Tiny Tim. He was the cutest little kitten. And that mom actually adopted Tiny Tim, and Tiny Tim was doing really, really well. And then when we came in the next morning, he had just passed away. And so that's the story on the kitten that passed away. He was an orphan kitten that was brought in, and we did the best we could. We gave it an adoptive mother, and he still passed away. But coming in at 3 ounces and eyes full of gunk, it was hard to save that one kitten. And so that's some of the explanation as to why some of these animals aren't being interacted with. It's not because we want to, but we're required by law a 10-day quarantine. And if that quarantine is not in our care, it has to be at a vet. And we can't afford to pay the vet for a 10-day quarantine either. And so that's why these animals are locked off from volunteers until quarantine is up, until a vet has cleared them, so that we can ensure the health and safety for both the volunteers and that animal. That's kind of it when it comes to that. I was out most of last week. So does anyone have any questions for me? Otherwise, this week is super busy with budget meetings. So I may be a little hard to get a hold of because I'm pretty well lined up with budget meetings the rest of the week.
Just one question for you. When we were talking about the animal stuff, you do background checks on the people that adopt them? He sounded like they were very liberal on who they handed animals out to.
Yeah. So they're calling at least 2 references, sometimes 3 if we can get a hold of them, and then the vet as well, also for reference. So we are calling those folks. When people adopt an animal, you're attesting to certain things on there. So you're saying yes or no to a fence. You're saying yes or no to a vet. You're saying yes or no to home ownership, all of those things. And so based on the information that you attest to, and then calling the references in the vet, that's how a decision is made. If a dog needs a fence, and if you attest to having a fence, I'm not going to your house though to confirm you have a fence. You're attesting to having a fence. If a dog needs a fence, you've met that mark, right? But we do call the references, and we do speak to the vets, the vet that you indicate on your application, and getting those okay before we just adopt out an animal. Yes.
This seemed odd to me, because if you buy a pet, but he does a background check on you, all they want to know is the cash.
Yeah. So, but I mean, if you lie on your application, I mean, there's not a lot I can do about that.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments for Katie? Katie, can you give me that start date again for Joe Duncan?
June 1.
Sunday.
Yep.
Very good. If there's nothing else, you've got your correspondence in the packet, and I'll open up the last public comment.
Mary Hahn. We live at 207 7th Street in Frankfurt. And actually, I was just dropping by to see if I could get from Katie. I was at the Republican headquarters Monday night, and there were a lot of good comments, from the people in the community as well as her report. And I wrote all over the green pages, and I was hoping I could get some more from you. Okay. And also, it was really new news that some of these suppliers or some of these contractors had jumped. I heard you give statistics of 127 or 250 or what. I mean, it was really alarming to hear all that. And I think this is an area where the community could really step in. So if it wouldn't be too much trouble for you to make a list of, who it is that's jumped so much, and maybe somebody in the community would step up and do it a lot cheaper. So those are my 2 requests of you. That's it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
I'm Annie Browning, and I live at 30 Grove Place in the city of Frankfurt. I was just going to comment on the animal control because several years ago, I think 2021, I got a pet from animal control after my dog passed away. And the first pet that they had me do a walk with was a greyhound. I have a disability. I think you know that. Anyway, so that was not a good match. My point in sharing this is that it was not really highly functioning at all. And I can attest to that. So there's plenty of opportunities for improvement. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. We will close public comment and move for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Bob, Tim,
Yummy.
all those in